The gun was already pointed at her chest when Noah realized he had a choice. Let the ghost of his dead wife keep him frozen, or step between the bullet and the woman who made him feel alive again. Damien's finger tightened on the trigger. Victoria's breath caught. And Noah Carter, the quiet single father who'd spent 4 years hiding on a ranch in Boulder, finally stopped running from the only thing that terrified him more than death: living. If you want to see how a broken man finds his way back from the grave, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The smell of horse sweat and hay was the only thing keeping Noah Carter anchored to the present. His hands moved on autopilot, pitchfork, stall, while his mind drifted somewhere between memory and numbness. It was early June in Boulder, Colorado, and the morning sun hadn't yet burned through the mountain fog that settled over his small ranch like a burial shroud. "Daddy, you're doing it wrong." Noah blinked and looked down. His 7-year-old daughter Lily stood beside him in oversized rubber boots, her dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail that he'd tried and failed to fix that morning. She pointed at the wheelbarrow he'd been filling. "You put the dirty hay on top of the clean hay." He glanced down. She was right. He'd gotten distracted again. "Good catch, Bug." His voice came out rougher than he meant it to. She studied him with those serious brown eyes, Sarah's eyes, and for a second he saw his late wife's face superimposed over their daughter's. The same tilt of the head, the same way of looking at him like she could see straight through to the broken machinery inside. "You were thinking about Mommy again." It wasn't a question. Noah set down the pitchfork and crouched beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I think about her every day, Lily. That's not going to change." "I know." She kicked at a clump of dirt. "But you get sad when you think too hard." He didn't know what to say to that. She was 7 years old and already carried more emotional intelligence than most adults he knew. It wasn't fair. She should have been worrying about dolls and playgrounds, not whether her father was drowning in his own head. "Come on," he said, standing up and offering his hand. "Let's get you breakfast before school." They walked together toward the small ranch house, a 2-bedroom structure that had seen better decades, and Noah tried not to think about the fact that it had been 4 years since Sarah died. 4 years since the car accident that turned his world into something cold and gray. 4 years of waking up reaching for someone who wasn't there. Inside, he made scrambled eggs while Lily set the table. They ate in comfortable silence, the kind that happens between two people who've learned to coexist with grief. Noah watched her push eggs around her plate, and he wondered if she remembered her mother's laugh anymore, or if those memories were already starting to fade into something softer and less real. "There's a new lady next door," Lily said suddenly. Noah looked up. "What?" "The big house. Someone moved in yesterday. I saw the trucks." The neighboring property, if you could call something a quarter-mile away a neighbor, had been empty for over a year. It was one of those sprawling estates that rich people from Denver or California bought as weekend getaways, all glass and modern architecture that looked completely out of place against the rustic landscape. Sarah used to joke that it looked like a spaceship crashed into the hillside. "Probably just another weekend warrior," Noah said. "Someone who'll show up twice a year and complain about the smell of horses." Lily shrugged and went back to her eggs. After he dropped her at school, Noah drove back to the ranch and tried to lose himself in work. He had 3 horses to exercise, fencing that needed repair, and a list of odd jobs from people in town who hired him when they needed someone reliable and quiet. He preferred it that way. Physical labor didn't require him to pretend he was okay. It just required him to show up and do the work. He was replacing a rotted fence post near the property line when he saw her for the first time. She stood at the edge of the neighboring estate, maybe 50 yards away, wearing dark jeans and a white linen shirt that looked expensive even from a distance. Her hair was black and cut in a sharp bob that framed a face he couldn't quite make out. She wasn't doing anything, just standing there looking at the mountains like she was trying to memorize them. Noah went back to his work, ignoring the strange pull of curiosity in his chest. It wasn't his business who moved in next door. He had enough trouble managing his own life without getting tangled up in someone else's. But over the next 2 weeks, he kept seeing her. Not up close, never up close, but in those accidental moments when their routines overlapped. She'd be walking the perimeter of her property at dawn while he fed the horses. He'd be fixing a gate while she sat on her back deck with a laptop and coffee. They never spoke. never acknowledged each other beyond a brief nod or a raised hand. It was Lily who finally broke the silence. "You should invite her over," she said one evening while they sat on the porch eating popsicles. "Who?" "The new lady. She's always alone." Noah glanced toward the neighboring property, though it was too far and too dark to see anything. "She probably likes being alone, Bug." "So do you, but that doesn't mean you should be." He looked at his daughter, this tiny person who somehow understood loneliness better than most adults, and felt something crack inside his chest. She was right, of course. He'd built his whole life around being alone, around keeping people at arm's length so he didn't have to explain the hollow space where his wife used to be. "Tell you what," he said. "Next time I see her, I'll wave. How's that?" Lily rolled her eyes. "That's not inviting her over, Daddy." "Baby steps, Bug. Baby steps." But the next time he saw her, waving felt impossible. It was a Saturday morning, and he was hauling bags of feed from his truck when he heard a car engine struggling nearby. He looked up and saw a sleek black Range Rover stopped in the middle of the dirt road that connected their properties. The hood was up, and the woman, his new neighbor, stood beside it, looking at the engine like it had personally offended her. Noah set down the feed bag and walked over, his boots crunching on gravel. "Need help?" She turned, and for the first time he saw her face clearly. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe 30, with sharp cheekbones and green eyes that looked both tired and fiercely intelligent. There was something guarded in the way she held herself, like she'd learned to expect disappointment from people. "I don't know anything about cars," she said bluntly. It just stopped. Noah peered under this hood. The engine was still ticking with residual heat, and he could smell coolant. He checked a few connections and found the problem almost immediately, a cracked radiator hose that had finally given out. "You've got a busted hose," he said. "You're not going anywhere until it's replaced." She exhaled sharply, and he caught a flash of frustration before she smoothed it away. "Of course. Do you know anyone who can fix it? I can patch it temporarily, get you home at least, but you'll need a mechanic for a real fix." "How much?" The question caught him off guard. "For the patch?" "Nothing. I've got the tape in my truck." She studied him like she was trying to figure out the catch, and Noah realized she probably wasn't used to people doing things without wanting something in return. "I'm Victoria," she said finally, extending a hand. "Noah." Her grip was firm, businesslike, and her hand was cool despite the morning heat. He grabbed the repair tape from his truck and spent the next 20 minutes wrapping the damaged hose while she watched in silence. It wasn't an uncomfortable silence exactly, but it wasn't easy either. He could feel her watching him, and it made him hyper-aware of every movement. "You live alone?" she asked suddenly. "With my daughter." "How old?" 7. She nodded, and something in her expression shifted. "And her mother?" Noah's hand stilled on the hose. This was the part he hated, the inevitable question that forced him to put words to something that still felt impossible to explain. "Died 4 years ago," he said quietly. "Car accident." "I'm sorry." And unlike most people who said those words, she sounded like she actually meant it. He finished the repair and wiped his hands on his jeans. "That should hold until you can get to a shop. There's a good mechanic in town, Jerry's Auto. Tell him I sent you." "Thank you." She hesitated, and for a second he thought she might say something else, but instead she just got back in the car and started the engine. It turned over smoothly, and she gave him a small nod before driving away. Noah watched her go, feeling something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. It wasn't attraction exactly, or if it was buried under too many layers of guilt and grief to name properly. It was more like recognition. The way she'd asked about Sarah, the way she carried herself like someone who'd learned to be careful with trust, it reminded him of the way he moved through the world now, like someone who'd been broken and put back together wrong. He tried to shake it off and went back to work. June bled into July, and the accidental encounters continued. Victoria would be checking her mail when he drove past on his way to town. He'd be working in the yard when she walked her property line at sunset. They traded small waves, brief nods, the kind of acknowledgement that said, "I see you existing," without requiring anything more. Lily, of course, wasn't satisfied with small waves. "You should invite her to the barbecue," she announced one evening. The town's 4th of July barbecue was a bolder tradition, Half the county showed up to eat ribs and watch fireworks from the high school football field. Noah usually made an appearance for Lily's sake, but he'd perfected the art of showing up late and leaving early. "I'm sure she's got better things to do, Bug." "She's always alone, Daddy. You said that's sad." "I never said that. You think it, I can tell." Sometimes Noah wondered if his daughter was actually a tiny psychic trapped in a 7-year-old's body. The barbecue fell on a hot Thursday, and Noah spent most of the afternoon trying to convince himself he didn't need to go. But Lily had been looking forward to it all week, and he couldn't bring himself to disappoint her. So he showered, put on a clean shirt, and drove them into town as the sun started its slow descent behind the mountains. The football field was already packed with people by the time they arrived. Long tables covered in checkered cloths groaned under the weight of food, potato salad, coleslaw, corn on the cob, and enough barbecue to feed a small army. Kids ran wild in the open spaces while adults clustered in familiar groups, trading gossip and beer. Noah grabbed a plate and found a spot at the edge of the crowd where he could keep an eye on Lily while maintaining a comfortable distance from everyone else. He'd gotten good at this over the years, being present without being there, showing up without actually participating. He was halfway through a rib when he saw Victoria. She stood near the drink table looking completely out of place in dark jeans and a simple gray t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She held a plastic cup like it might explode, and her eyes scanned the crowd with the careful wariness of someone who'd walked into a room full of strangers. Their eyes met across the field, and Noah felt that same uncomfortable stirring in his chest. He raised his hand in greeting, and she nodded back. That should have been the end of it, but then Lily spotted her. "Daddy, there's the new lady!" Before Noah could stop her, Lily was weaving through the crowd toward Victoria. He watched his daughter tap the woman on the arm and say something he couldn't hear. Victoria looked down, clearly startled, and then her expression softened into something that almost looked like relief. They talked for a minute, and then Lily pointed directly at Noah. "Oh no." Victoria's gaze followed Lily's finger, and even from across the field, Noah could see the slight smile tugging at her lips. She said something to Lily, and together they started walking toward him. Noah stood up, suddenly very aware of the barbecue sauce probably smeared across his face. "Daddy, I invited her to sit with us," Lily announced proudly. "I can see that." Victoria looked amused. "Your daughter is very persuasive. She gets that from her mother." The words were out before Noah could stop them, and he immediately felt the familiar weight settle over the moment. He always did this, brought up Sarah at the worst times, like some kind of emotional reflex he couldn't control. But Victoria just nodded. The good qualities usually are inherited. She sat down across from him, and Lily immediately launched into a detailed explanation of every single person at the barbecue, complete with backstories and gossip that a 7-year-old definitely shouldn't know. Victoria listened with genuine interest, asking questions and laughing at Lily's commentary in a way that felt natural rather than forced. Noah ate in silence and watched them interact, feeling like an outsider at his own table. "Your dad doesn't talk much, does he?" Victoria said to Lily, though her eyes were on Noah. "He talks to the horses more than people," Lily said matter-of-factly. "He says they're better listeners." "She's not wrong," Noah admitted. "So what do the horses think about the new neighbor?" Victoria's tone was light, teasing, but there was something sharper underneath, like she was testing him. "They're withholding judgment until they meet you properly." "Smart horses." Lily giggled, and Noah felt something loosen in his chest. This was the first real conversation he'd had with someone outside of his daughter in months, and it didn't feel as terrible as he'd expected. The evening wore on, and the crowd grew looser as people cycled through beer and gossip. Someone set up a speaker system and country music drifted across the field. Kids chased each other with sparklers while their parents pretended to supervise. Noah had just excused himself to grab water when he heard a familiar voice behind him. "Well, if it isn't the hermit himself." He turned to find Marcus Reeves grinning at him. Marcus owned the hardware store in town and had been trying to drag Noah into social situations for years. He was a good guy, one of the few people who didn't treat Noah like damaged goods, but he had zero sense of boundaries. "Hey, Marcus, saw you talking to the new lady. Victoria, right?" Marcus glanced over Noah's shoulder. "She's easy on the eyes." "She's a neighbor." "A single neighbor?" "I have no idea." "Well, you should find out." Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. "You can't hide on that ranch forever, brother. Sarah wouldn't want that." And there it was. The thing people always said, like they knew what Sarah would have wanted better than he did. Like grief had an expiration date and he was overdue to move on. I'm not hiding, Noah said quietly. Then prove it. Go talk to her. Make a friend. Hell, make more than a friend. Marcus, I'm serious, man. You're not dead. Stop acting like you are. Marcus walked away before Noah could respond, leaving him standing there with his water and a knot of anger in his chest. He wasn't dead. He knew that. But he wasn't exactly living either, and everyone seemed determined to point that out. He started back toward the table, but stopped when he saw Victoria wasn't alone anymore. A man stood beside her, tall, expensive suit despite the casual setting, salt and pepper hair styled in that way that screamed money and control. He was leaning in too close, his hand resting possessively on the back of Victoria's chair. And even from a distance, Noah could see the tension in her shoulders. Lily had wandered off to play with other kids, leaving Victoria alone with whoever this was. Noah walked over, his instincts prickling. Really think running to the middle of nowhere was going to solve anything? The man was saying. His voice was smooth, practiced, the kind of voice used to getting what it wanted. Damien, I told you to stop. Victoria's voice was low, controlled, but Noah heard the tremor underneath. Stop what? Caring about you? That's not how this works, Vic. We built something together. You can't just walk away because you're scared. I'm not scared. I'm done. Same thing. Noah stepped up to the table. Everything okay here? Damien turned and looked at Noah like he was something stuck to the bottom of his shoe. This is a private conversation. Didn't look private from where I was standing. Victoria's eyes met his, and he saw a flash of something, gratitude, relief, warning, before Damien stepped between them. And you are? The neighbor, Noah. Ah. Damien's smile was all teeth. The single father. Victoria mentioned you. Something about the way he said it made Noah's skin crawl. Damien was just leaving, Victoria said, standing up. Her voice had gone cold, professional, the kind of tone that said this conversation is over. But Damien didn't move. You think you're better off here? With him? He gestured at Noah dismissively. A widower playing farmer with a kid to raise? Come on, Vic, you're smarter than this. Watch it. Noah's voice came out harder than he intended. Or what? Damien stepped closer, and Noah could smell expensive cologne mixed with something sharper. Whiskey, maybe. You going to defend her honor? Play the hero? I'm going to ask you one more time to leave. This is a public place. I've got as much right. Damien, go! Victoria's voice cut through like a blade. Now! For a long moment, nobody moved. The music played. Kids laughed. The world kept turning while these three people stood locked in something that felt inevitable and terrible. Finally, Damien stepped back, his smile never wavering. This isn't over, Victoria. You know that. He walked away, and Noah watched him disappear into the crowd before turning back to Victoria. She'd sat down again, her hands gripping the edge of the table like she needed something solid to hold on to. You okay? I'm fine. But her voice shook, and she wouldn't meet his eyes. Noah sat down across from her. Who was that? No one important. Didn't seem like no one. She finally looked up, and he saw something raw in her expression. My ex. He followed me here. Does he do that often? More than he should. Noah didn't know what to say to that. He'd spent 4 years avoiding emotional complications, and now he'd stumbled into someone else's messy history without meaning to. I'm sorry, Victoria said suddenly. You didn't sign up for my drama. Neither did you. For what it's worth, that guy's an asshole. She laughed, a short, sharp sound that didn't carry much humor. Yeah, he is. They sat in silence while the sun finished setting and the first stars appeared overhead. Somewhere across the field, fireworks started going off, early ones that people set off before the official show. Lily would be looking for him soon. Thank you, Victoria said quietly, for stepping in. I didn't do much. You showed up. That's more than most people do. Noah didn't know how to respond to that, so he just nodded. The official fireworks started around 9, and Noah found Lily and sat with her on the grass to watch. Victoria had disappeared somewhere into the crowd, and he told himself he wasn't looking for her. Told himself the weird protective feeling in his chest was just adrenaline from the confrontation with Damien. But after the show ended and they walked back to the truck, he found himself scanning faces, looking for that dark hair and those guarded green eyes. He didn't see her. They drove home in comfortable silence, Lily half asleep against the window while the radio played soft country music. Noah's mind kept circling back to the way Victoria had looked at him when Damien was there, like she was both grateful for the intervention and ashamed to need it. He knew that feeling. Back at the ranch, he carried Lily inside and tucked her into bed, then stood on the porch watching the neighboring estate. Lights were on in the big house, but he couldn't see any movement. He should go to bed. Morning would come early, and the horses didn't care about his insomnia. Instead, he found himself grabbing his keys and driving the quarter-mile to the cemetery on the edge of town. Sarah's grave was in the back corner, under an oak tree she would have loved. Noah parked and walked the familiar path, his boots crunching on gravel that never seemed to change, no matter how many times he visited. Her headstone was simple. Sarah Carter, beloved wife and mother. The dates that bracketed a life cut short. Noah sat down in the grass and stared at those dates like they might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. I met someone, he said quietly. Not like that, just a neighbor. But she's got her own mess, and I don't know why I'm getting pulled into it. The wind moved through the oak leaves. A car passed on the distant road. Marcus said you wouldn't want me hiding. Maybe he's right. I don't know. I can't tell anymore what's honoring you and what's just being scared. He fell silent, waiting for something, a sign, an answer, permission to move forward or stay frozen. But the dead didn't speak, and the only thing that came back to him was the sound of his own breathing. I'm so tired, Sarah. I'm tired of pretending I'm okay. I'm tired of making Lily worry about me. I'm tired of feeling like half a person. His voice broke on the last word, and he pressed his palms against his eyes. I don't know how to do this without you. Maybe that's the point. Noah's head snapped up. Victoria stood a few yards away, half hidden in shadow. You're not supposed to know how to do it without her, she continued, stepping closer. You're just supposed to do it anyway. What are you doing here? I followed you, after the barbecue. She sat down in the grass a few feet away, far enough to give him space. I wanted to make sure you were okay after the thing with Damien. I'm fine. You're sitting in a cemetery at 11 at night talking to a grave. You're a lot of things, but fine isn't one of them. Noah should have been angry at the intrusion, but he was too tired to muster it. What do you want, Victoria? Honestly, I don't know. She pulled her knees up to her chest. I've been standing at the edge of my property for 2 months watching you work, and I kept thinking, here's someone who understands. Understands what? Being stuck. Being afraid to move forward because moving forward feels like betrayal. Noah looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the same exhaustion he carried reflected back. Who are you stuck on? He asked. Myself. Her laugh was bitter. I spent 3 years with Damien. He wasn't always like he is now. At first he was charming, supportive, everything I thought I wanted, and by the time I realized he was controlling me, deciding who I saw, what deals I made, how I dressed, I'd convinced myself I loved him. What changed? He hit me, she said it matter-of-factly, like she was reporting the weather. Just once. Just enough to let me know he could, and I finally understood that all his care was just another word for ownership. Jesus. I left, bought the house here, changed my numbers, got a restraining order. But he doesn't care about legal boundaries. He cares about winning. She looked at Sarah's grave. I'm guessing you understand something about not being able to move forward. Noah wanted to argue, to defend himself against the accusation buried in her words. But sitting there in the cemetery with his wife's name carved in stone and this stranger who somehow wasn't a stranger anymore, he couldn't find the lie. I made her a promise, he said quietly, the day we got married. I told her I'd love her until I couldn't breathe anymore. And when she died, I felt like I should have stopped breathing too. Like continuing without her was breaking that promise. But you're still here. Yeah, I'm still here. And you're raising your daughter, working your ranch, fixing strangers' cars on the side of the road. That doesn't sound like a broken promise to me. That sounds like someone who's honoring love by choosing to keep living. Noah shook his head. You don't understand. I can't. Can't what? Feel something for someone else? Can't let yourself have a second chance? It's not that simple. Of course it's not simple. Victoria's voice rose. Nothing about this is simple, but sitting in a cemetery talking to someone who can't answer isn't living, Noah. It's waiting to die. The words hit him like a physical blow, and for a second he couldn't breathe, because she was right. He'd been waiting, not actively. He still got up every morning, took care of Lily, did the work. But some part of him had stopped believing in a future beyond maintenance and grief. "I'm not trying to be cruel," Victoria said more gently. "But I spent 3 years being told I wasn't enough on my own, that I needed someone else to be complete. And I finally learned the difference between honoring love and hiding inside it. Which is? Love wants you to keep growing. Hiding just wants you to stay safe." Noah looked at Sarah's grave, at the dates that would never change, and felt something shift. It wasn't permission, exactly. It wasn't closure. But it was the first crack in the wall he'd built around himself, and through that crack came something he hadn't felt in years. Possibility. "I should go," Victoria said, standing up. "I'm sorry for intruding on this." "Wait," Noah stood too. "Thank you. For saying what nobody else would." She smiled, and for the first time since he'd met her, it reached her eyes. "We're both messes, Noah. Might as well be honest about it." She started to walk away, but before she'd gone more than a few steps, Noah heard the crunch of tires on gravel. A car pulled into the cemetery, the same expensive sedan he'd seen Damien get into at the barbecue. Victoria froze. The car parked, and Damien stepped out. Even in the dim light from the street lamps, Noah could see the cold calculation in his expression. "Vic," he called, "we need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about." "I disagree." Damien walked toward them, his movements careful and controlled. "You've made your point. You're angry. You wanted space. I get it. But this—" He gestured at the ranch house in the distance, at Noah standing beside Victoria. "This is beneath you. Go home, Damien." "I am home. Wherever you are, that's home." He stopped a few feet away, and Noah saw something dangerous flicker across his face. "You really think you can just walk away from me? From everything I built for us?" "You didn't build anything for us. You built a cage." "A cage?" Damien laughed. "I gave you everything. Money, status, connections. I made you who you are." "No?" Victoria's voice was steady now, stronger. "I made myself. You just tried to take credit for it." The air went tight with tension. Noah felt his muscles coil, instinct screaming at him to step between them, even though nothing had happened yet. "And what about you?" Damien turned his attention to Noah. "You think you're some kind of hero, playing the white knight for the damaged billionaire? I think you should leave. This is a public cemetery. I've got as much right to be here as you." "Actually, you don't." Noah kept his voice level. "You've got a restraining order that says you need to stay 500 feet away from Victoria. This is maybe 50. So unless you want me to call the sheriff, I suggest you get back in your car and go." Damien's expression darkened. "You have no idea what you're stepping into, friend." "I'm not your friend." "No, you're a broke single father clinging to a ghost. And you think what? That she's going to save you, make you feel alive again?" Damien took a step closer. "She's using you. That's what she does. She finds broken things and plays savior until she gets bored." "Stop." Victoria moved between them. "Noah, he's trying to provoke you. Don't—" But Damien wasn't done. "You want to know why she really left the city? It wasn't because of me. It was because her company was falling apart, and she was too proud to admit she couldn't handle it. So she ran. That's what Victoria does when things get hard. She runs." "That's not true." "Isn't it?" Damien smiled. "You ran from your family when they questioned your business decisions. You ran from your investors when they called you out for fraud. I never committed fraud. And you ran from me when I tried to help you fix your mistakes. But sure, keep pretending you're the victim here." Victoria's hands were shaking. Noah could see her trying to hold it together, trying to maintain control, but Damien's words were surgical strikes designed to hit every vulnerability. "She doesn't deserve this," Noah said quietly. "And you do? Standing in a cemetery at midnight talking to a woman who's been dead for 4 years? You think that's healthy? You think your daughter deserves a father who's still waiting for someone who's never coming back?" The mention of Lily sent white-hot anger through Noah's chest. "Don't talk about my daughter." "Why not? Everybody in town talks about her. Poor kid with a father who's too busy mourning to actually live. What kind of example is that? Noah's fist connected with Damien's jaw before he consciously decided to throw the punch. Damien staggered backward, and for a second the cemetery went completely still. Then Damien straightened up, touching his split lip with something that looked almost like satisfaction. "There it is," he said. "The real you. Violent, unhinged, and you wonder why you're alone." Noah's vision narrowed to a pinpoint. Every rational thought evaporated, leaving only the raw need to make this man hurt the way he'd been hurting. He lunged forward, but Victoria grabbed his arm. "Noah, stop. He's not worth it." But Damien wasn't finished. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a gun. The gun looked small in Damien's hand, almost delicate, but Noah had been around firearms enough to know that size didn't matter when metal met flesh. The barrel wasn't pointed at anyone yet, just held loosely at Damien's side. But the threat was clear as broken glass. "Put that away." Victoria's voice came out flat, drained of the fire it had carried moments before. "Why?" Damien's thumb traced the grip almost lovingly. "So your farmhand here can take another swing at me?" "I don't think so." Noah's heart hammered against his ribs, but he kept his voice steady. "You really want to do this in a cemetery? In a public place where anyone could drive by?" "Nobody's driving by. It's almost midnight." Damien's smile was all wrong, twisted into something that didn't match the civilized businessman he'd pretended to be at the barbecue. "And I'm tired of playing nice while you two act out your little trauma-bonding fantasy." "This isn't about him," Victoria said. She'd positioned herself slightly in front of Noah, and he could see her hands trembling even as she tried to sound calm. "This is about you not being able to handle rejection." "Rejection?" Damien laughed, and the sound scraped across Noah's nerves. "Is that what you call it? I call it theft. You took my connections, my investments, my plans for our future, and you ran off to play rancher's wife with a broken-down single father. I'm not playing anything. I left because you're sick." "I'm sick?" Damien's voice rose. "I spent 3 years building you up, making you someone who mattered, and this is how you repay me? By shacking up next to some cowboy who talks to gravestones?" Noah felt the words land like punches, each one designed to find the soft places he'd been protecting. Part of him wanted to grab Victoria and run. Another part, the part that had been sleeping for 4 years, wanted to charge forward and end this, gun or no gun. "We're leaving," Victoria said. She reached back and found Noah's hand, her fingers cold against his palm. "Don't follow us. You're not going anywhere until I say you can go." "That's not how this works, Damien." "That's exactly how this works." He raised the gun slightly, still not aiming it directly at either of them, but the message was unmistakable. "You don't get to decide when we're done. I do." Noah squeezed Victoria's hand, trying to communicate something without words. He'd been in bar fights, broken up disputes between drunk ranch hands, even wrestled a bull off a downed fence once. But this was different. This was calculated violence wearing an expensive suit, and he had no idea how to navigate it. "What do you want?" Noah asked. Damien's attention swiveled to him. "I want what's mine. My girlfriend, my business partner, my future. Everything she stole when she decided to throw a tantrum and disappear. I didn't steal anything. I left a relationship that was killing me." "Killing you?" Damien's laugh was sharp as a slap. "I never laid a hand on you until you pushed me to it. Everything I did was because I loved you too much to watch you self-destruct." Victoria's hand tightened on Noah's, and he could feel her whole body vibrating with suppressed emotion. "You hit me because I wouldn't sign over my company's shares." "Don't rewrite history." "I was trying to protect you from yourself. You were making terrible decisions, hemorrhaging money on projects that would never pan out. Someone had to be the adult." "You wanted control. That's different from protection." "Is it?" Damien took a step closer, and Noah instinctively moved to shield Victoria more fully. "Because from where I'm standing, you ran straight into another man's arms the second you had an excuse. Seems like you just traded one kind of dependence for another." "We're not together," Noah said. "Yet." Damien's smile was knowing, cruel. "But you want to be. I can see it on your face. You think she's going to fix whatever's broken inside you. Make you feel like a real man again instead of a widower playing pretend." Noah's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. Every word out of Damien's mouth was designed to burrow under skin and fester, and the worst part was how close to the bone some of them cut. You don't know anything about me. I know you're desperate. I know you've been alone so long you've forgotten what it feels like to matter to someone. And I know Victoria has a habit of collecting broken things. Damien's eyes flicked to Victoria. How long before you get bored of him, Vic? 6 months? A year? How long before he's just another charity case you got tired of saving? Shut up. Victoria's voice cracked on the words. Why? Because I'm telling the truth? You did the same thing with that artist in Denver, remember? The one with the drinking problem you swore you could fix. What was his name? Michael? Matthew? Took you 8 months to realize you can't save people who don't want to be saved. That's not what this is, isn't it? Damien gestured at Noah with the gun, a casual, terrifying movement. Look at him. He's still wearing his wedding ring. He's still visiting his wife's grave in the middle of the night. You really think you're going to compete with a ghost? The wedding ring felt like it was burning on Noah's finger. He hadn't taken it off in 4 years, hadn't even considered it, and now it felt like evidence of everything Damien was accusing him of. This isn't about Noah, Victoria said. This is about you refusing to accept that I don't want to be with you. You don't know what you want. You never have. That's why you need me. I needed therapy. What I got was you. Damien's expression went cold, and for the first time, Noah saw the mask slip completely. Whatever charm or civility had been there before evaporated, leaving something hard and mean. Careful, Vic. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Good. I want it to be hard for you. That can be arranged. Damien raised the gun properly now, pointing it at Victoria's chest. Get in the car. No. That wasn't a request. Noah moved without thinking, putting himself fully between the gun and Victoria. You're not taking her anywhere. And you're going to stop me? You going to be the hero, farmhand? Because I've got news for you. Heroes die. That's kind of their whole thing. Maybe, but at least I'll die actually living instead of hiding behind a dead woman's memory. The words came from Victoria, spoken over Noah's shoulder, and they hit the space between the three of them like a grenade. Noah felt them slice through him even as they were aimed at Damien, because there was truth in them that applied to both men standing in this cemetery. Damien's finger moved to the trigger. Noah's mind went blank and sharp at the same time, the way it had when Lily fell off the horse last year, and he'd had to catch her midair. No time to think, just react. He lunged forward, going low, tackling Damien at the waist. They hit the ground hard, and the gun went off. The sound was impossibly loud in the quiet cemetery, echoing off headstones and trees. Noah's ears rang, but he didn't stop moving. He grabbed for Damien's wrist, trying to control the weapon, and felt knuckles connect with his cheekbone in return. Noah! Victoria's voice sounded distant through the ringing. Damien was stronger than he looked, all compact muscle and rage under the expensive clothes. He brought his knee up into Noah's ribs, and air exploded out of Noah's lungs. The gun was still between them, still dangerous, and Noah could feel Damien trying to angle it toward his face. He did the only thing he could think of. He bit down hard on Damien's forearm. Damien screamed and the gun clattered away across the grass. Both men scrambled for it, elbows and fists flying, all pretense of civilization gone. Noah's knuckles split against Damien's jaw. Damien's thumb found Noah's eye socket and pressed. Pain whited out Noah's vision for a second, but he kept moving, kept fighting, because somewhere in the chaos of adrenaline and fear was the knowledge that if he stopped, if he let Damien get control, Victoria would end up back in that car, back in that cage. His hand closed on the gun first. He rolled away, breathing hard, and pointed the weapon at Damien. His hands were shaking so badly the barrel wavered in the air. Damien sat up slowly, touching his bleeding mouth. You won't shoot me. Try me. You're not a killer, Noah. You're a grieving widower playing cowboy. You can barely handle getting up in the morning, let alone— Shut up. Noah's voice came out raw. Just shut the hell up. Victoria appeared beside him, her phone out. I'm calling the sheriff. Don't. Damien stood up, brushing grass off his suit like they'd just finished a friendly sparring match instead of trying to kill each other. You call the police, and this gets messy for everyone. I've got lawyers, Vic. Good ones. They'll tie you up in court for years over the restraining order violation. By the time they're done, your company will be buried in legal fees. I don't care. You should. Because I'll make sure everyone knows about your little breakdown. The anxiety attacks, The pills you started taking, the fact that you couldn't handle running your own business without falling apart. Damien smiled through his split lip. I'll paint you as an unstable woman who fled her support system and shacked up with the first damaged man she could find. How do you think that plays for your investors? Victoria's face went pale. That's what I thought. Damien straightened his jacket. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to come back to Denver with me. We're going to tell everyone this was a misunderstanding, that you needed space, and I respected that. But now we're working things out. You'll sign the partnership papers I've been holding, we'll merge your company with my holdings, and we'll move forward like adults. And if I don't, then I destroy everything you've built, your reputation, your business, your freedom, and I make sure your broken cowboy here loses custody of his daughter. Noah's blood went cold. What? You think family courts look kindly on fathers who get in fistfights in cemeteries at midnight? Fathers who can't control their violent impulses? Damien's smile widened. I've got connections in Colorado. One call, and Child Services will be very interested in your fitness as a parent. You son of a... Careful. Damien held up a hand. You're still holding my gun. Don't want to give me more ammunition. Noah wanted to pull the trigger so badly his finger ached. Wanted to end this man and everything he represented. But Damien was right about one thing. Noah wasn't a killer. He was a father. And the thought of Lily being taken from him was more terrifying than anything else Damien could threaten. Put the gun down, Noah, Victoria said quietly. Vic, please, just put it down. Noah lowered the weapon and Damien stepped forward smoothly to take it. The power dynamic shifted immediately, like they'd been playing a game and Damien had just flipped the board. Smart choice. Damien tucked the gun back into his jacket. Now, Victoria, the car. If I go with you, you leave Noah and Lily alone, completely. Done. And you drop any legal action. As long as you come willingly, yes. Victoria looked at Noah, and in her eyes he saw the same exhausted resignation he'd been carrying for 4 years. The look of someone who'd decided that surrender was easier than fighting. Don't do this, Noah said. I have to. No, you don't. We can call the sheriff, deal with whatever comes. He'll take Lily from you. You know he will. He's got the money and the connections to do it. She touched his face gently, and her hand came away bloody from his split cheek. I won't let you lose your daughter because of me. Victoria? It's okay. But her voice cracked on the words, and they both knew it wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. She turned to walk toward Damien's car, and something inside Noah broke open. Not the clean break of bone, but the messy rupture of something held together too long by force of will alone. No. The word came out stronger than he expected. No, you're not doing this. Victoria stopped. Noah? He's right about one thing. I've been hiding. I've been so scared of dishonoring Sarah's memory that I forgot what she actually asked me to promise. He looked at her gravestone, then back at Victoria. She made me swear that if anything happened to her, I'd make sure Lily grew up knowing that love isn't about control or possession. That love is choosing someone's freedom even when it costs you everything. That's very touching, Damien said, but it doesn't change the reality of the situation. Yeah, it does. Noah pulled his phone from his pocket. His hands had stopped shaking. Because I'm calling the sheriff anyway, and you can threaten me with lawyers and court battles and losing my daughter, but here's what you didn't factor in. I'm not afraid of losing anymore. I already lost the person I loved most in the world. You can't threaten me with something I've already survived. Damien's expression shifted, uncertainty flickering across his features for the first time. And here's the other thing you miscalculated, Noah continued. I'm not some random cowboy you can push around. I'm a single father who's been raising a daughter by myself for 4 years in a small town where everyone knows everyone. You think you've got connections? Sheriff Martinez watched me bury my wife. He helped me fix my truck when I couldn't afford the mechanic. His daughter is in Lily's class. Noah held up the phone. So you can call your lawyers, but I'm calling my friend, and we'll see whose story holds more weight. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Damien laughed, a short, bitter sound. You're making a mistake. Probably. But it's my mistake to make. Noah dialed. The phone rang twice before a gravelly voice answered. This better be important, Carter. It's past midnight. Hey, Martinez, sorry to wake you. I've got a situation at the cemetery. Guy with a gun, violated restraining order, assault. Can you send a unit? There was a pause. You okay? I've been better. 5 minutes. The line went dead. Damien's face had gone carefully blank, but Noah could see the calculations running behind his eyes. He was weighing options, measuring escape routes, trying to figure out if he could talk his way out of this. You just destroyed her, Damien said finally. You know that, right? When this goes public, when investors find out she's connected to a restraining order violation and assault charges, her company will tank. Everything she's built will be gone. Better gone than owned by you, Victoria said. You don't mean that. I really do. She walked back to Noah and took his hand. Her palm was sweaty, trembling, but she held on tight. I'd rather start over with nothing than spend one more second pretending you're something other than a monster. Damien's mask slipped further, and for a second Noah saw real rage flash across his features. You're going to regret this. Maybe, but at least I'll regret it on my own terms. In the distance, sirens started wailing. Damien heard them too, and something in his posture changed. The controlled businessman evaporated, leaving someone who looked almost small despite his expensive clothes. This isn't over, he said. Yeah, Noah replied. It is. 2 patrol cars pulled into the cemetery, lights flashing blue and red across the headstones. Sheriff Martinez got out of the first one, a barrel-chested man in his 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. He took in the scene with a practiced glance. Noah's bloody face, Victoria's shaking hands, Damien's split lip and disheveled suit. Somebody want to tell me what happened here? Noah started talking. He laid out everything, the confrontation at the barbecue, Damien following them to the cemetery, the gun, the threats. Victoria filled in the gaps, her voice steady despite the tears running down her face. She showed Martinez the restraining order on her phone, the documentation of Damien's harassment, the texts he'd sent threatening her business. Damien tried to spin it differently, claimed he'd come to the cemetery to visit a friend's grave and happened to run into them. Said Noah attacked him unprovoked, that the gun was for self-defense, that Victoria was having some kind of mental breakdown and he'd been trying to help. Martinez listened to it all with the patience of someone who'd heard every kind of lie imaginable, then turned to his deputy. Check him for weapons. The deputy found the gun in Damien's jacket. Martinez checked the serial number, made a few calls, and his expression went hard. This weapon was reported stolen in Denver 3 months ago, he said. You want to explain that, Mr. Cross? Damien's confident facade cracked completely. I bought it from a private seller. I didn't know it's... Save it for your lawyer. Martinez nodded to the deputy. Cuff him. This is insane. I'm the victim here. That man assaulted me. That man has defensive wounds consistent with being attacked. You have offensive wounds consistent with being the attacker. Plus, you're carrying a stolen firearm and you violated a restraining order by being within 500 feet of Ms. Hale. Martinez's voice was flat, professional, but Noah caught the edge of anger underneath. You're under arrest for assault, weapons charges, and violation of a protective order. You have the right to remain silent. The deputy recited the rest of Miranda while cuffing Damien and leading him to the patrol car. Damien kept trying to talk, to explain, to spin the situation back in his favor, but nobody was listening anymore. Noah watched them load him into the car and felt something unclench in his chest that had been tight for so long he'd forgotten it was there. Martinez turned to them. You two need medical attention? I'm okay, Noah said. His face throbbed and his ribs ached, but nothing felt broken. Ms. Hale? Victoria shook her head. She hadn't let go of Noah's hand since the siren started. All right, I'm going to need statements from both of you. You can come down to the station tomorrow morning, or I can take them now if you're up for it. Tomorrow, Victoria said. Please. Martinez studied her for a long moment, then nodded. 9 o'clock. Don't be late. He looked at Noah. You did good, Carter. Took guts to make that call. Didn't feel like courage. Felt like the only option left. That's what courage usually feels like. Martinez clapped him on the shoulder. Get some ice on that face, and maybe find a different place for midnight conversations. The patrol cars pulled away, taking Damien and his threats and his carefully constructed lies with them. Noah and Victoria stood in the cemetery watching the taillights disappear, neither of them quite ready to acknowledge what had just happened. You could lose Lily, Victoria said finally. He wasn't lying about that. His lawyers could still make things difficult for you. They could try, but I meant what I said. I'm not afraid of losing anymore. Noah turned to face her. And I'm not afraid of living, either. Not like I was. Because of one conversation in a cemetery? Because of you. He said it simply, without drama, just stating a fact. You made me realize I've been honoring Sarah's death instead of her life. She would have hated what I've become. This half-person going through motions. Victoria's eyes filled with fresh tears. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be with someone without it turning into him controlling me. Then we figure it out together, or we don't figure it out at all. But either way, it's a choice, not a cage. She laughed through the tears, a sound that was equal parts relief and exhaustion. You're very philosophical for a cowboy. I've had 4 years to think. Turns out isolation gives you a lot of time to work through your emotional baggage. And have you worked through it? Noah looked at Sarah's grave one more time. The stone was just stone now, solid and real, but no longer the only tether keeping him connected to something that mattered. No, he said honestly, but I'm ready to try. Victoria followed his gaze to the headstone. Do you think she'd approve of this? Of us? I think she'd tell me to stop asking permission from the dead and start living for the people who are still here. He squeezed Victoria's hand. But yeah, I think she'd like you. You're exactly the kind of stubborn she always admired. I'm not stubborn. I'm persistent. Sarah used to say the same thing. They stood in silence for another moment, and Noah felt the weight of the evening settling over him. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind exhaustion and the dull throb of injuries. Tomorrow there would be statements to give, lawyers to deal with, questions from Lily about why his face was bruised. Tomorrow would be complicated. But tonight, standing in this cemetery with a woman who understood what it meant to fight your way out of grief and fear, Noah felt something he hadn't felt in 4 years. Hope. I should get home, he said. Lily will be wondering where I am. Does she know you come here at night? She knows I go for drives when I can't sleep. Never asked where. Noah started walking toward his truck, and Victoria fell into step beside him. What about you? You got somewhere to go besides that big empty house? That big empty house is all I've got right now. Then come to breakfast tomorrow, after we give our statements. Lily makes terrible pancakes and I make worse coffee, but it's something. Victoria stopped walking. You're inviting me into your daughter's life after everything that just happened? You stepped between me and a loaded gun. I think you've earned the right to bad pancakes. Noah, I'm serious. If we do this, whatever this is, it affects her too. I won't be responsible for bringing more instability into a 7-year-old's life. He turned to face her fully. The parking lot light cast half her face in shadow, but her eyes were bright with unshed tears and something fiercer. Lily asked me 2 weeks ago why you were always alone, Noah said. She told me I should invite you over because nobody should have to be lonely. My 7-year-old daughter has more emotional wisdom than I've managed in 32 years, and she saw something in you worth knowing before I was brave enough to admit it. What if I'm not ready? What if I'm still too broken? Then you'll be broken at my kitchen table instead of broken alone. Seems like a marginal improvement. Victoria laughed again, and this time it sounded lighter. You really are terrible at romantic speeches. I'm out of practice. Give me a few months and I might manage something that doesn't sound like a country song gone wrong. I'll hold you to that. They reached Noah's truck, and he hesitated before opening the door. There was something else that needed saying, something that had been building since the moment Damien pulled that gun. Thank you, he said, for what you said earlier, about me hiding behind Sarah's memory. It was true, and I needed to hear it. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I know. That's why it worked. He touched the wedding ring on his finger, turning it absently. I don't know when I'm ready to take this off. Maybe never. But I know I can't keep using it as an excuse to not feel anything. You're allowed to still love her. Moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. I know, but I also know she'd be disappointed if she could see what I've become. She used to say love should make you braver, not smaller. Noah looked up at the stars starting to punch through the night sky. I've been getting smaller for 4 years. Time to try something different. Victoria reached out and took his hand again, and this time it felt less like seeking comfort and more like offering partnership. We're both a mess. Completely. This could blow up in our faces. Probably will. And you're still willing to try? Noah thought about Lily sleeping safely in her bed, unaware that her father had just fought a man in a cemetery. He thought about Sarah's grave and the promises he'd made and the ones he still needed to keep. He thought about Victoria standing in front of a gun meant for her, choosing freedom over safety. Yeah, he said, I'm willing to try. She stood on her toes and kissed his cheek, right next to the cut Damien had opened. It stung and felt perfect at the same time. Breakfast tomorrow then, after statements. 9 o'clock at the sheriff's office. Don't be late. I won't. She walked to her car, the Range Rover with its patched radiator hose, and Noah waited until she was safely inside before getting into his truck. He watched her taillights disappear down the dark road, then sat for a minute with his hands on the steering wheel, letting the events of the night catch up with him. His phone buzzed. A text from Martinez. Damian Cross has priors in 3 states. Restraining order violations, harassment, 1 assault charge that was dropped. You did good tonight. Noah typed back. Just trying to do the right thing. That's what I said. Get some rest, Carter. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. He drove home slowly, taking the back roads through Boulder's outskirts. The ranch house was dark when he pulled up, except for the porch light he'd left on. Inside, everything was exactly as he'd left it. Lily's backpack by the door, breakfast dishes in the drying rack, the quiet, settled presence of a life being lived one small choice at a time. He checked on Lily. She was sprawled across her bed like a starfish, covers kicked off, one arm hanging off the edge. He pulled the blanket over her and kissed her forehead, breathing in the smell of kid shampoo and innocence. Love you, Bug, he whispered. She mumbled something in her sleep that might have been love you too, or might have been nonsense. Noah stood there watching her breathe, this perfect thing he'd somehow managed not to completely screw up despite everything. In his bedroom, he caught sight of himself in the mirror. His face was a mess. Split cheek, eye already purpling, lip swollen. He looked like he'd picked a fight with a brick wall and lost. But underneath the damage, he saw something he hadn't seen in years, someone who'd made a choice, who'd stopped waiting for permission to keep living and just done it. He touched the wedding ring again, then slowly, carefully, pulled it off his finger. It felt wrong at first, like removing part of his skeleton. The pale band of skin underneath looked vulnerable and new. He turned the ring over in his palm, reading the inscription Sarah had chosen. Until we can't breathe. I can still breathe, he said to the empty room. That has to mean something. He put the ring in the small wooden box on his dresser, where he kept Sarah's favorite earrings and the last birthday card she'd given him, not throwing it away, not forgetting. Just making space for the possibility that he could carry love without it crushing him. Sleep came easier than it had in months, and for once his dreams weren't haunted by cemetery stones and unanswered questions. Instead, he dreamed about breakfast and terrible coffee and a 7-year-old girl explaining to a guarded stranger why nobody should have to be lonely. Morning arrived cold and bright, sunlight streaming through windows he'd forgotten to close. Noah made coffee, burned toast, and was standing at the stove when Lily appeared in her pajamas. Daddy, your face looks terrible. Good morning to you too, Bug. She climbed onto a kitchen chair and studied him with concern that no 7-year-old should have to feel. What happened? Noah had spent the drive home preparing for this question, trying to find the balance between honesty and age-appropriate explanation. I helped someone who was in trouble. The person who was causing the trouble didn't like that. Did you get in a fight? Yeah, I did. Did you win? He thought about Damien in handcuffs, about Victoria's hand in his, about the ring sitting in a box instead of on his finger. I think so. Good. Lily poured herself cereal with the serious concentration she brought to everything. The new lady, Victoria, is she okay? She's fine. Actually, she's coming over for breakfast after I run some errands this morning. Lily's face lit up. Really? Really? Think you can manage not to ask her a million embarrassing questions? I make no promises. She grinned, gap-toothed and perfect. Does this mean we have a friend now? Noah felt his chest tighten. Yeah, Bug. I think it does. At 8:30, Noah dropped Lily at his neighbor Helen's house, a retired teacher who watched her when necessary and never asked too many questions. Then he drove to the sheriff's office, where Victoria was already waiting in the parking lot. She looked tired, shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide, But she'd put herself together with the same careful precision she seemed to bring to everything, professional, in control. Only the slight tremor in her hands when she saw him gave away the cracks underneath. "How's your face?" she asked. "Colorful. Yours?" "I didn't sleep." "Yeah, me either. A lie, but a kind one." Inside, Martinez took their statement separately. Noah walked him through the entire evening again, leaving nothing out. The deputy who'd arrested Damien sat in on the interview, taking notes and occasionally asking clarifying questions. Damien Cross lawyered up immediately, Martinez said when they were done, already posting bail. But between the stolen gun, the restraining order violation, and multiple witnesses to the assault, his attorneys are going to have a hard time making this go away. "What about his threats?" Noah asked. "The stuff about taking Lily or destroying Victoria's business. Harder to prove, but we've documented everything, and the DA is building a case for stalking and harassment in addition to the assault charges." Martinez leaned back in his chair. "I'm not going to lie to you, Carter. This guy has resources. He's going to make things difficult." "I know." "You prepared for that?" Noah thought about the ring in the wooden box, about 4 years of grief he'd been carrying like a shield, about a daughter who deserved to see her father actually living instead of existing. "Yeah," he said, "I'm prepared." Victoria's statement took longer. She had years of history to document, patterns of behavior that painted a picture of escalating control. When she finally emerged from the interview room, she looked wrung out but somehow lighter. "They're recommending I file a new restraining order with broader terms," she said as they walked to the parking lot. "And they're coordinating with law enforcement in Denver to build a stalking case." "Good. It's going to be public, Noah. Once the charges are filed, once the media gets hold of it, my company is going to take a hit. Investors don't like drama." "So you'll find new investors." "It's not that simple." "Then you'll make it simple." He stopped beside his truck. "You told Damien you'd rather start over with nothing than stay in his cage. Did you mean that?" She met his eyes, and he saw the same thing he'd seen in the cemetery: exhaustion, fear, and underneath it all, a core of steel that nothing had managed to break. "Yeah," she said, "I meant it." "Then the rest is just details." They stood in the parking lot while the morning sun climbed higher and Boulder woke up around them. Somewhere in town, Lily was probably charming Helen with stories about school. Somewhere in a jail cell, Damien was making phone calls and planning his next move. Somewhere, Sarah's grave sat quiet under an oak tree, holding memories but no longer holding Noah hostage. "So," Victoria said. "Breakfast?" "Breakfast." They drove separately back to the ranch, Victoria following Noah's truck down the familiar roads. When they pulled up to the house, Helen's car was already in the driveway. She'd brought Lily back early, probably sensing that Noah needed his daughter close today. Lily exploded out the front door before Noah had fully parked. "Victoria's here! Daddy, Victoria's here!" "I can see that, Bug." Victoria got out of her car looking nervous in a way Noah hadn't seen before. Facing down her violent ex in a cemetery? No problem. Meeting a 7-year-old for pancakes? Terrifying. "Hi, Lily," she said. "Hi. Daddy says you're coming for breakfast, but he didn't make anything yet because we had to wait for you, and also his face looks like he got hit by a truck." "Lily, it's okay." Victoria crouched down to Lily's level. "Your dad's face looks like that because he helped me when someone was being mean. He's very brave." Lily studied Victoria with the same serious intensity she'd inherited from Sarah. Noah held his breath, waiting for the verdict only a 7-year-old could deliver with complete honesty. "Are you our friend now?" Lily asked. "I'd like to be, if that's okay with you." "Do you like horses?" "I don't know much about them." "Do you like pancakes?" "Love them." "Can you beat Daddy at cards?" "I don't know. We'd have to test it." Lily considered this, then nodded decisively. "Okay, you can be our friend, but you have to promise not to leave just because things get hard." The question hit Noah in the chest, and he saw it land on Victoria too. How many people had promised Lily they'd stay and then disappeared? How many times had his daughter watched adults fail to keep their word? Victoria took Lily's hand. "I promise I'll try my best, but sometimes trying your best means being honest when things are too hard instead of pretending everything's fine. Is that okay?" Lily thought about it. "I guess so, as long as you don't lie. Deal." They shook on it, small hand and larger one, and Noah felt something shift. Not fixed, Nothing was fixed yet, but maybe starting to heal. Inside, they made breakfast together. Victoria turned out to be a terrible cook, burning 3 batches of pancakes before finally producing something edible. Lily supervised with the confidence of a seasoned chef, offering advice that was mostly wrong but delivered with absolute certainty. Noah made coffee that Victoria politely described as strong, and Lily less politely described as yucky. They ate at the small kitchen table, passing syrup and arguing about whether chocolate chips belonged in pancakes. The conversation was light, ordinary, the kind of morning meal that happened in houses across America every day. But underneath the normalcy, Noah could feel the weight of everything that had brought them to this moment. Damien was still out there. Legal battles were coming. Victoria's business was facing uncertainty. His own past was far from resolved. But sitting here with his daughter and a woman who understood what it meant to fight for the chance to keep living, Noah felt something he'd almost forgotten how to feel. Peace. Not the false peace of numbness or avoidance, real peace. The kind that comes from making a choice and living with it, consequences and all. After breakfast, Lily dragged Victoria outside to meet the horses while Noah cleaned up. He watched them through the window. His daughter explaining horse care with the authority of someone twice her age, Victoria listening with genuine interest despite clearly having no idea what she was doing. His phone buzzed. Martinez again. Cross made bail 2 hours ago. Left Colorado immediately. Denver PD has been notified. Keep your eyes open. Noah typed back. Will do. Thanks for everything. He looked out the window again. Victoria was laughing at something Lily said, her guard finally down, and Lily was beaming with the pride of making a new friend. Whatever came next, lawyers, media attention, Damien's inevitable attempts at revenge, they'd face it. Not perfectly. Not without scars. But together, which was more than Noah had allowed himself to hope for in 4 years. He walked outside to join them, and Lily immediately grabbed his hand. Daddy, Victoria wants to learn to ride. Can we teach her? That depends. Victoria, you got health insurance? Very funny. I'm serious. These horses have opinions about beginners. So do I, and my opinion is that I can handle it, Lily giggled. She sounds like Mommy did. Mommy always said she could handle anything. The words hung in the air for a moment, and Noah waited for the familiar pain to swallow him. But instead, what came was a warm ache, like pressing on a healing bruise, still tender, but survivable. Your mom would have liked Victoria, he said to Lily. They're both stubborn enough to argue with horses. Is that a compliment? Victoria asked. In this family? Absolutely. Lily looked between them with that knowing expression 7-year-olds sometimes got, like they could see things adults spent years trying to hide. Are you going to be our family now? Noah and Victoria exchanged glances. How about we start with friends, Victoria said carefully, and see where things go from there? Okay, but I think you're going to stay. What makes you so sure? Lily shrugged with the easy confidence of childhood. Because you look at Daddy the same way he looks at you, like you found something you didn't know you were looking for. Out of the mouths of babes. The rest of the morning passed in that strange, suspended bubble of after-crisis calm. They taught Victoria the basics of approaching a horse without getting kicked. They showed her how to brush out manes and check hooves for stones. Lily narrated everything with enthusiasm, while Noah found himself watching Victoria more than teaching her. She was trying so hard to get it right, to prove she belonged in this world she'd stumbled into. And every time she messed up, spooked a horse, dropped a brush, forgot which side to approach from, she'd laugh at herself instead of getting frustrated, like she'd finally given herself permission to be imperfect. Around noon, Victoria's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her expression went tight. I need to take this. She walked toward her car for privacy, and Noah watched her pace while she talked. Even from a distance, he could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she kept rubbing her temple like fighting off a headache. When she came back, her face was carefully neutral. That was my board of directors. Someone leaked the story about Damien's arrest to a business blog. They're recommending I take a temporary leave of absence while the legal situation resolves. Can they force you? No. But they can make my life hell if I don't. So don't. She stared at him. You don't understand. This is my company. I built it from nothing. If I step away now, there's no guarantee I'll get it back. And if you stay? What then? Spend every day fighting with board members who don't trust you while Damien's lawyers try to paint you as unstable? That's my problem to solve. Is it? Noah moved closer, lowering his voice so Lily wouldn't hear. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're still letting other people decide your worth. Damien did it with violence. Your board's doing it with politics. Either way, you're dancing to someone else's tune. Victoria's eyes flashed. That's easy for you to say. You don't have employees depending on you, investors who put millions into your vision. You're right, I don't. All I've got is a small ranch, a daughter, and 4 years of practice at losing things I thought I couldn't live without. He held her gaze. But I learned something from all that losing. You can't build a life on other people's approval. You can only build it on what you're willing to fight for. And what if I don't know what that is anymore? Then you figure it out, but you don't do it alone. They stood in the sunlight while Lily sang to the horses, and the world kept turning. Finally, Victoria's shoulders dropped, and she let out a long breath. I need to go back to Denver, deal with this in person. Okay? I don't know when I'll be back. That's okay too. Noah, hey. He caught her hand. I meant what I said last night. This is a choice, not a cage. You do what you need to do. I'll be here when you're done. She looked at their joined hands, then up at his bruised face, then over at Lily, who was now trying to explain the concept of personal space to a horse that clearly didn't care. Thank you, she said quietly, for not making this harder than it already is. Thank me by coming back. I will. I need to handle this my way. I know. She squeezed his hand once more, then called out to Lily. I have to go, sweetheart, but I'll see you soon, okay? Lily ran over and hugged Victoria's waist. You promised you wouldn't leave just because things got hard. I'm not leaving. I'm going to fix some things. There's a difference. Okay, but you have to come back for my birthday. It's in 3 weeks and we're having cake. I'll be there. Promise? Promise. Noah walked Victoria to her car and watched her drive away for the second time in 12 hours. This time felt different, though. This time felt like a choice instead of a retreat. Lily appeared beside him, slipping her hand into his. Is she coming back? I think so. Do you love her? The question came so simply, so innocently, that Noah didn't have time to construct a careful answer. I don't know yet, but I think I could. Is that okay with you? Lily considered this with her usual seriousness. Will you still love Mommy too? Always. Then it's okay. Love doesn't run out. That's what Mommy used to say. Noah pulled his daughter close, breathing in her kid smell and marveling at how much wisdom could fit in such a small person. When did you get so smart? I was born this way. You just didn't notice. They stood together watching the dust settle on the road where Victoria's car had disappeared. Somewhere in Denver, she was probably already making calls and planning strategy. Somewhere in whatever hole he'd crawled into, Damien was planning his next move. Somewhere, life was complicated and messy and full of things Noah couldn't control. But right here, right now, standing with his daughter in the Colorado sunshine, Noah felt something click into place. Not fixed, not healed, but aligned in a way that felt like the first step toward becoming whole again. Come on, Bug, he said. Let's go finish taking care of those horses. And then can we have ice cream? It's not even 1 o'clock. So? So yes, we can have ice cream. We can have... She grinned and ran ahead toward the barn, and Noah followed at a slower pace, his ribs still aching from the fight. The wedding ring line on his finger had already started to fade, pale skin adjusting to its absence. In a few weeks, nobody would know it had ever been there. But he would know. He'd carry that mark the same way he'd carry Sarah's memory, not as a weight holding him down, but as proof that he'd loved completely once and survived losing it. And maybe, if he was lucky, he'd learn to love completely again. The ice cream melted faster than they could eat it, sticky rivers of chocolate running down Lily's hands and dripping onto the porch where they sat. Noah watched his daughter try to catch the mess with her tongue, laughing when she failed, and tried not to think about the fact that Victoria had been gone for 6 hours and hadn't texted once. You keep checking your phone, Lily observed. I'm checking the weather. You're checking for her. She said it without judgment, just another one of those matter-of-fact observations that 7-year-olds delivered like small grenades. It's okay to miss people, Daddy. Noah set his phone face down on the porch rail. When did you become the parent here? Someone has to be the smart one. She grinned, gap-toothed and covered in chocolate. Helen says you've been sad for too long. She says Victoria might be good for you. Helen needs to mind her own business. Helen says that too. But she keeps not doing it. Despite himself, Noah laughed. Helen was 72 years old and had appointed herself the neighborhood's unofficial therapist/gossip distributor. She meant well, but her version of minding her own business involved asking deeply personal questions while pretending to talk about the weather. What else does Helen say? That you're finally starting to look like yourself again. I don't remember what you looked like before, but she says it's good. Lily finished her ice cream cone and wiped her hands on her jeans, leaving chocolate smears. Do you think Victoria's okay? The question carried more weight than it should have. Noah thought about the tightness in Victoria's voice during that phone call, the way her whole body had tensed when she saw who was calling. I think she's dealing with a lot right now. Because of the bad man? Damien? Noah had tried to keep the details vague, but Lily was too smart to be fooled by half-truths. She knew something serious had happened in the cemetery, knew it involved Victoria, and no amount of parental deflection was going to satisfy her completely. Yeah, because of him. Are we safe? Is he going to come here? The fear in her voice cut through Noah like a blade. He pulled her close, ice cream stains and all. We're safe. Sheriff Martinez is making sure of it, and Damien's back in Denver, far away from here. But what if he comes back? Then we handle it, together. He kissed the top of her head. You don't need to worry about this, Bug. That's my job. But I do worry. I worry about you all the time. You all. The admission landed heavy between them. Noah realized with a sick twist in his gut that Lily had been carrying this for years. Watching her father grieve, monitoring his moods, trying to be good enough or quiet enough or whatever she thought would keep him from falling apart completely. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I didn't mean for you to feel like you had to take care of me. I don't mind, but sometimes I wish you'd tell me the truth instead of pretending everything's fine when it's not. Noah pulled back and looked at his daughter. Really looked at her. When had she grown up enough to call him out on his emotional dishonesty? When had she learned to see through the walls he'd built? You're right, he said. I haven't been honest with you about a lot of things, about how hard it's been, about how lost I've felt. I thought I was protecting you, but maybe I was just protecting myself. So tell me the truth now. Do you like Victoria? There it was again, that simple, devastating question that cut through all the complexity and got to the heart of what mattered. Yeah, Noah said. I do, but it's complicated. Why? Because I still love your mom, and I'm scared that caring about someone else means I'm forgetting her. Lily was quiet for a long moment, picking at the chocolate stains on her jeans. Then she said, I don't remember Mommy's voice anymore. I remember her face from pictures, and I remember she smelled like vanilla. But her voice is gone. Noah felt his throat tighten. Bug, and I used to feel bad about it, like I was a terrible daughter for forgetting, but Helen says memory works different for kids. She says it's okay that I don't remember everything. It is okay. So if it's okay for me to forget her voice, why isn't it okay for you to like someone new? The logic was flawless and completely unfair in the way that only a child's logic could be. Noah didn't have a good answer, so he just held his daughter and let her wisdom settle over both of them like dust. His phone buzzed. He grabbed it fast enough to make Lily smirk. It was Victoria. Made it to Denver. Board meeting in the morning. This is going to be worse than I thought. Noah typed back. You got this. Call if you need to talk. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. Thank you for today. For everything. I'll try to call tonight after Lily's asleep. He showed Lily the text and she beamed. See? She's thinking about us too. Apparently. You should make dinner, something good, in case she calls and can smell it through the phone. That's not how phones work, Bug. You don't know that for sure. They went inside and Noah attempted to make something that didn't involve burning or forgetting ingredients. He settled on spaghetti. Hard to mess up, mostly, and let Lily help with the sauce even though she added way too much garlic and kept taste testing until half of it was gone. While they cooked, his mind kept drifting to Denver. What was Victoria walking into? How bad was the board meeting going to be? And why did he care so much about someone he'd known for barely 2 months? Because she gets it, he thought. She understands what it's like to rebuild yourself from broken pieces. After dinner and a bath that left more water on the floor than in the tub, Noah tucked Lily into bed. She was already half asleep, fighting to keep her eyes open like she did every night. "Will you tell me about Mommy?" she mumbled. Noah settled onto the edge of her bed. "What do you want to know?" "How you met." He told this story before, but it never got old. "I met her at a farmer's market. She was arguing with a vendor about whether his tomatoes were actually organic, and she had this whole scientific breakdown of soil composition that made the poor guy look like he wanted to disappear into the ground." Lily giggled sleepily. "Was she right?" "Always. She was always right about that kind of stuff." Noah smoothed his daughter's hair back from her forehead. "She would have loved you so much, Bug. You've got her brain and her stubbornness. And your eyes. And my eyes. Do you think she'd be mad about Victoria?" Noah thought about Sarah, about the promises they'd made and the life they'd planned, about the fact that none of those plans had included dying at 28 and leaving him to figure out everything alone. "No," he said. "I think she'd tell me to stop overthinking and just be happy." "Then you should listen to her." "I'm trying." Lily's eyes drifted closed, and within minutes her breathing had evened out into sleep. Noah sat there a while longer, watching her and thinking about how strange it was that the person who was supposed to need his guidance had become the one teaching him how to live. His phone rang at 10:30. Victoria's name lit up the screen. "Hey," he answered, keeping his voice low so he wouldn't wake Lily. "Hey." She sounded exhausted. "Is this a bad time?" "Never." He walked out onto the porch, where the night air was cool and the stars were starting to punch through the darkness. "How'd it go?" "About as badly as expected. The board wants me to step down temporarily. They're calling it a leave of absence for my own well-being, but we all know it's because they're terrified of the publicity." "What did you say?" "I told them no, that if they wanted me gone, they'd have to vote me out. And then I reminded them that I still own 38% of the company and have enough allies to make their lives very difficult if they try." Noah smiled. "How'd that go over?" "Like a lead balloon. But I don't care anymore. I'm tired of letting fear make my decisions." She paused, and he heard rustling like she was moving around. "I talked to my lawyer, too. He says Damien's team is already trying to spin the arrest, claiming I manipulated the situation, that he was trying to have a civil conversation and you attacked him." "Of course he is." "They're going to subpoena you, Noah. Pull you into depositions, try to make you look unstable. Are you prepared for that?" He thought about Lily asking if they were safe, about the chocolate ice cream and the terrible spaghetti and the simple happiness of an ordinary evening. Thought about what he'd be risking by staying tangled up in Victoria's mess. "Yeah," he said, "I'm prepared." "You could back out. Tell the prosecutors you don't want to be involved, that you were just a bystander who happened to be there." "I could, but I won't." "Why not?" "Because you stood between me and a loaded gun in a cemetery at midnight. Seems like the least I can do is show up for some depositions." She laughed, but it sounded wet, like she was crying. "I don't deserve you." "That's not how this works. We don't earn each other. We just show up and try not to screw it up too badly." "Is that your philosophy on relationships?" "It's my philosophy on everything." He leaned against the porch rail, looking out at the dark shape of Victoria's house in the distance. "When are you coming back?" "I don't know. I've got meetings all week, and I need to do damage control with investors. Plus, my lawyer wants me to file additional complaints against Damien, which means more paperwork and more interviews." She sighed. "I'm sorry. I know I promised Lily I'd be here for her birthday. That's 3 weeks away. A lot can happen in 3 weeks. Or nothing can happen. I could get buried in legal proceedings and board politics and lose everything I've built. Then you'll build something new." "You make it sound easy." "It's not easy, but it's simple. You decide what matters and you fight for it. Everything else is just noise." Victoria was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. "I miss you. Is that crazy? I barely know you and I miss you." "If it's crazy, then we're both crazy, because I've been checking my phone every 5 minutes since you left." "Lily told you to, didn't she?" "How'd you know?" "Because she's 7 going on 40, and she sees things adults spend years trying to hide." Victoria laughed again, and this time it sounded lighter. "Tell her I miss her too, And tell her I'm going to do everything I can to make it back for her birthday. I will. They talked for another hour about nothing important. The weather, the horses, whether chocolate chips belonged in pancakes. It was the kind of conversation Noah used to have with Sarah late at night when neither of them could sleep, intimate in its ordinariness. He'd forgotten what that felt like, how good it could be to just talk to someone who wanted to listen. Finally, Victoria yawned. I should let you go. It's late. Yeah. Noah? Yeah? Thank you for not running when things got complicated. Thank you for the same. After they hung up, Noah sat on the porch for another half hour, listening to the night sounds and thinking about how much had changed in 48 hours. 2 days ago, he'd been going through the motions of life, keeping people at a distance, using grief as armor against feeling anything too deeply. Now he was involved in a criminal case, falling for a woman with more baggage than a cargo plane, and actually looking forward to tomorrow for the first time in years. Progress was weird. The next 3 weeks fell into a strange rhythm. Noah worked the ranch during the day, took care of Lily, and talked to Victoria every night after his daughter went to bed. She was drowning in meetings and legal strategy sessions, fighting to keep control of her company while Damien's lawyers tried to paint her as an unstable flight risk. The media attention was exactly as bad as she'd predicted. Business journals ran stories about the embattled CEO and her dramatic personal life. Gossip sites posted paparazzi photos of her leaving the courthouse. Someone even dug up her college roommate who claimed Victoria had always been dramatic and attention-seeking. Through it all, Victoria kept fighting. She gave interviews, posted statements on social media, and refused to let Damien's narrative become the dominant one. Noah watched her transform from the guarded woman who'd moved in next door to someone fierce and uncompromising, and he fell a little more in love with her every day. Not that he'd said it out loud yet. That felt too big, too soon, too much like tempting fate. Lily, meanwhile, had appointed herself Victoria's unofficial cheerleader. She made cards and drawings that Noah photographed and texted to Denver. She told everyone at school that her dad's friend was fighting bad guys in court. She counted down the days until her birthday with the intensity of someone planning a military operation. Do you think she'll really come? She asked Noah the week before the party. I don't know, Bug. She's trying. But trying isn't the same as doing. No, it's not. But sometimes trying is all we've got. Lily accepted this with her usual gravity, but Noah could see the worry in her eyes. She'd gotten attached fast, the way kids do, and the thought of Victoria letting her down was already weighing on her. Noah tried to prepare her for disappointment while secretly hoping it wouldn't come to that. 5 days before Lily's birthday, everything exploded. Noah was fixing fence posts when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Carter? A woman's voice, professional and clipped. This is Amanda Chen with the Colorado Department of Human Services. I'm calling about a complaint we received regarding your daughter, Lily Carter. Noah's blood went cold. What kind of complaint? An anonymous report expressing concern about the child's living situation and your fitness as a parent. I'm required to investigate all such reports. Would you be available for a home visit tomorrow? What? No, yes, I'm available, but this is ridiculous. Who filed the complaint? The report was anonymous. I can't share those details. Let me guess. The complaint mentioned something about a fight in a cemetery? About me being violent or unstable? There was a pause. I can't confirm the specific contents of the report over the phone, Mr. Carter, but I do need to conduct a home visit and interview both you and your daughter. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. work for you? Noah wanted to scream. Wanted to demand answers, to call Martinez and have him explain that the fight was self-defense, that Damien was a manipulative bastard using the system as a weapon. Instead, he said, 2 p.m. is fine. Thank you. I'll see you then. She hung up, and Noah stood in the middle of his half-fixed fence, feeling like the ground had opened up beneath him. This was what Damien had threatened. This was the revenge he'd promised, delivered with bureaucratic efficiency and just enough legal cover to make it stick. He called Victoria. She answered on the first ring. Noah? What's wrong? He told her. Heard her sharp intake of breath, the muttered curse that followed. It's him, she said. It has to be. He's using the system against you. Can he do that? Just call in anonymous complaints? He can do whatever he wants if he's got the right connections, and Damien's got connections everywhere. Her voice turned sharp with anger. I'm calling my lawyer. We're going to fight this. Victoria, I can't afford the kind of lawyers you're talking about. I'm not asking you to pay. This is my fault. If I hadn't dragged you into my mess, he never would have targeted you. That's not how this works. It's exactly how this works. She sounded like she was pacing, that nervous energy he'd come to recognize. He's punishing me by going after you and Lily. It's what he does. Finds the thing you care about most and threatens it. Noah leaned against a fence post, feeling the full weight of what he'd walked into. He'd known getting involved with Victoria came with complications. He just hadn't realized how much Damien was willing to destroy to get what he wanted. What do I do? He asked. You prepare. Clean the house. Make sure everything looks stable and safe. Get character references from people in town. Helen, Martinez, Lily's teacher, anyone who can vouch for you being a good parent. And document everything. Every interaction with Damien. Every threat he made. All of it. And what about Lily? Victoria's voice softened. You tell her the truth. Age-appropriate version, but the truth. She's smart enough to handle it, and she deserves to know what's happening. After they hung up, Noah called Martinez. The sheriff was predictably furious. Son of a bitch is using child services as a weapon? That's a new low even for him. Can you do anything? I can write a statement supporting you. Detail the cemetery incident from law enforcement perspective. Make it clear you were acting in defense of another person. That should carry weight with the investigator. Thanks, Martinez. Don't thank me yet. These investigations can take weeks, and they're invasive as hell. Be prepared for them to dig into everything. Your finances, your mental health history, your parenting style. They're going to look for any excuse to validate the complaint. I've got nothing to hide. Good. Keep it that way. Noah spent the rest of the day in a blur of preparation. He cleaned the house top to bottom, organized Lily's room, made sure there was food in the fridge and no expired medications in the cabinet. He called Lily's teacher, who was horrified at the complaint, and immediately offered to write a letter. Helen did the same, using language that was probably more colorful than child services wanted, but came from the heart. When Lily got home from school, he sat her down at the kitchen table. Bug, we need to talk about something serious. Her face went solemn. Is it about Victoria? Sort of. Remember the bad man, Damien? The one who tried to hurt her? Yeah, he's trying to make trouble for us now. He called some people and told them lies about me, and now someone from the government has to come check on us to make sure you're being taken care of properly. Lily's eyes went wide. Are they going to take me away? No. Noah grabbed her hands. Absolutely not. But a lady is going to come tomorrow and ask us some questions about our life here. She might want to see your room, ask you about school, stuff like that. I need you to just tell her the truth, okay? Don't try to make things sound better or worse than they are. Just be honest. Will she ask about Mommy? She might. What should I say? Whatever you want to say. There's no wrong answer, Bug. You just be yourself. Lily nodded slowly, processing. Then, is this because you're friends with Victoria? Yeah, Damien wants to hurt her, and he thinks hurting us is a way to do that. That's mean. Very mean. Are you still going to be friends with her, even though it's making things hard? Noah thought about the easy answer, the safe answer that would protect Lily from more disappointment. Then he remembered Victoria's advice. Tell her the truth. Yes, he said, I'm still going to be friends with her, because walking away when things get hard isn't the kind of person I want to be, and it's not the kind of person I want you to learn to be either. Lily considered this. Okay, then I'll tell the lady the truth, that you're a good dad and Victoria is nice and Damien is a butthead. Maybe skip that last part, but it's true. Truth and helpful aren't always the same thing. The next day, Amanda Chen arrived exactly at 2 p.m. She was younger than Noah expected, maybe 35, with dark hair pulled back in a neat bun and eyes that looked like they'd seen every kind of family dysfunction imaginable. Mr. Carter, thank you for making time. Miss Chen. She spent an hour walking through the house, taking notes on everything. The functioning smoke detectors, the food in the pantry, the safety locks on cabinets. She asked questions about Lily's routine, her school performance, her medical history. She was thorough and professional and gave absolutely nothing away about what she was thinking. Then she asked to speak with Lily alone. Noah's instinct was to refuse, to stay in the room and protect his daughter from invasive questions. But he knew that would look bad, like he had something to hide. So he nodded and stepped outside, where he paced on the porch for 20 minutes while his daughter was interrogated by a stranger. When the door finally opened, Lily came out looking tired, but not upset. Amanda Chen followed, her expression still neutral. Thank you both for your cooperation. I'll be filing my report within the next week. And? Noah couldn't help himself. What's the verdict? I don't make verdicts, Mr. Carter. I make recommendations based on the evidence. She softened slightly. For what it's worth, your daughter is well adjusted, your home is safe and clean, and everyone I've spoken with vouches for your character. But the complaint raised concerns about your involvement in a violent altercation and your romantic relationship with someone who has an active protective order against a third party. Those are factors I have to consider. That altercation was self-defense. Sheriff Martinez can confirm. I've already spoken with Sheriff Martinez. His statement will be included in my report. She headed toward her car, then turned back. Mr. Carter, off the record, be careful about who you associate with. Sometimes good people get caught in other people's messes through no fault of their own. She drove away, and Noah stood watching the dust settle, feeling like he'd just failed a test he didn't know he was taking. That night, Victoria called earlier than usual. Noah could hear the strain in her voice before she even spoke. How'd it go? Honestly, I don't know. The investigator was professional but gave nothing away. She interviewed Lily alone, which scared the hell out of me, but Lily said she just asked normal questions about school and whether I ever yelled or hit her. And what did Lily say? That I'm a good dad who makes terrible coffee and lets her stay up too late sometimes. He tried to smile but couldn't quite manage it. The investigator basically told me I'm collateral damage in your war with Damien. Silence on the other end of the line. Then, I'm sorry, Noah. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. It is, though. You'd be fine if I hadn't moved in next door, if I hadn't dragged you into the cemetery, if I hadn't— Stop! His voice came out harder than he intended. You didn't drag me anywhere. I made my own choices, and I'd make them again. Don't take that away from me by turning this into something you did to me instead of something we're doing together. But Lily, Lily is fine. Scared, but fine. And she's learning that sometimes doing the right thing costs you something. That's not a bad lesson. Victoria's breath hitched. I don't know how you're not angry with me. Who says I'm not? Noah sat down on the porch steps, suddenly exhausted. I'm furious. At Damien for being a manipulative bastard, at the system for making it so easy to weaponize child services, at myself for not seeing this coming. But I'm not angry at you. You didn't ask for any of this. I should have stayed away from you. The second I realized Damien was following me, I should have kept my distance. And I should have stayed locked in my grief forever, never risking anything or feeling anything because it might hurt. We can both play the should-have game, Vic, but it doesn't change where we are now. She was crying. He could hear it in the way her breathing caught, in the small sounds she tried to muffle. I'm coming back, she said finally. I don't care about the board meetings or the damage control. I'm coming back for Lily's birthday like I promised. You don't have to— Yes, I do. Because that little girl is counting on me, and I'm not going to be another adult who lets her down. Her voice steadied. I'll drive out Friday night, be there Saturday morning for the party. What about your company? My company will survive or it won't. Either way, I'm not missing this. After they hung up, Noah sat on the porch until the stars came out, thinking about promises and choices and the messy reality of trying to build something real with another broken person. The next few days crawled by. Noah threw himself into work, trying not to obsess over the child services report or check his phone every 5 minutes for updates. He planned Lily's birthday party with more attention than it probably deserved. Chocolate cake, decorations, a scavenger hunt in the barn that she'd been asking for. Lily asked about Victoria every day. Is she really coming? She says she is. But what if something happens? Then something happens, and we deal with it. But Noah was asking himself the same question. What if Victoria couldn't make it? What if the legal situation in Denver got worse? What if she decided that being involved with him and his daughter was too complicated, too risky, too much? Friday afternoon, his phone buzzed with a text. Leaving Denver now. Should be there by midnight. Can I crash on your couch? Noah stared at the message, feeling something loosen in his chest that had been tight since the child services visit. Couch is yours. Drive safe. Always. See you soon. He didn't tell Lily. Didn't want to get her hopes up in case something went wrong. Instead, he made dinner, helped with homework, and tucked her into bed with the usual routine. "Tomorrow's the big day," he said. "I know, I'm going to be 8. "Ancient," she giggled. "Daddy, that's not ancient. Helen is ancient. I'm just older." "Fair point. Do you think Victoria remembered?" "I think if she remembered, she'll be here. And if she forgot, then we'll have a great party anyway." Lily nodded, but he could see the worry in her eyes. She'd been let down before, by circumstance if not by people, and she was bracing herself for it to happen again. After she fell asleep, Noah sat in the living room with the lights off, watching the road. He told himself he wasn't waiting up, that he just couldn't sleep, that it had nothing to do with Victoria's estimated arrival time. At 11:45, headlights swept across the windows. Noah walked outside as Victoria's Range Rover pulled into the driveway. She got out looking exhausted, wearing jeans and a t-shirt instead of her usual polished outfits, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. "Hey," she said. "Hey yourself." They stood in the driveway for a long moment, just looking at each other. Then Victoria closed the distance and wrapped her arms around him, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a shifting world. Noah held her back, breathing in the smell of her shampoo and feeling her heartbeat against his chest. This was what he'd been missing without knowing it, this simple physical confirmation that he wasn't alone, that someone else was choosing to show up. "Thank you for coming," he said into her hair. "Thank you for not giving up on me." They went inside and Noah showed her to the couch where he'd already set up blankets and a pillow. Victoria looked at the setup and raised an eyebrow. "You know I own a giant house with like 12 bedrooms, right?" "Yeah, but this is closer. And Lily's going to lose her mind when she sees you in the morning." Victoria's face softened. "How is she?" "Good. Scared about the child services thing, excited about her birthday, worried you wouldn't show up." He sat down in the armchair across from her. "She's been making you cards all week." "I brought her a present. Nothing crazy, just, well, you'll see tomorrow." They talked for another hour, catching up on everything the phone calls hadn't covered. Victoria told him about the board meeting where she'd essentially told half her investors to go to hell. He told her about Amanda Chen's home visit and the agonizing wait for the report. "I'm scared," Victoria admitted, "about what might happen with Lily, about my company, about all of it." "Me too." "But you're still here." "So are you." She smiled, and it was the first real smile he'd seen from her in weeks. "Yeah, I guess I am." Saturday morning arrived with the kind of Colorado sunshine that made everything look possible. Noah woke early and found Victoria already awake, sitting on the porch with coffee and watching the horses. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. "Too excited. Is that weird?" "For an 8-year-old's birthday party? Little bit. I've never done this before, the whole kid birthday thing. I don't know the protocol." "Protocol is you show up, eat too much cake, and pretend to be impressed by whatever silly games we've planned. That's it." At 7:30, Lily woke up. Noah heard her bedroom door open, heard her footsteps in the hallway. She appeared in the kitchen doorway in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes, and stopped dead when she saw Victoria sitting at their kitchen table. For a second, nobody moved. Then Lily let out a shriek of joy and ran across the room, launching herself at Victoria hard enough to nearly knock her off the chair. "You came! You really came!" Victoria caught her, laughing and crying at the same time. "Of course I came. I promised, didn't I?" "Yeah, but grown-ups break promises sometimes. Not this grown-up, not to you." Noah watched them and felt something shift in his chest. This wasn't just about him and Victoria anymore. It was about Lily too, about building something that could hold all three of them even when things got complicated. The party itself was chaos in the best way. A dozen kids from Lily's class showed up, plus half the neighborhood and most of Noah's friends from town. Helen brought a casserole nobody asked for. Martinez showed up with a lecture about stranger danger that completely missed the birthday party vibe. The scavenger hunt turned into a full-scale barn invasion that left hay everywhere and several parents looking mildly traumatized. Through it all, Victoria was right there, helping with games, cutting cake, talking to parents like she'd known them for years instead of hours. Noah watched her charm her way through conversations with people who definitely read the news stories and had questions about the billionaire CEO hiding in Boulder. Around 3 p.m., when the party was winding down and kids were being collected by tired parents, Lily tugged on Victoria's hand. Will you come see the horses? I want to show you the one Daddy says is mine when I'm old enough. Absolutely. They walked toward the barn together, and Noah started cleaning up the wreckage of wrapping paper and empty plates. Helen appeared beside him with a knowing look. She's good with her, she observed. Yeah. You like her? Helen, don't Helen me. I've known you since you moved here, Noah Carter. I watched you bury your wife and raise that little girl alone. And this is the first time in 4 years I've seen you look like you might actually want to keep living. She poked him in the chest with one bony finger. So don't screw it up. Thanks for the pressure. Someone has to apply it. She patted his arm. But seriously, honey, let yourself be happy. Sarah would want that. After Helen left, Noah finished cleaning and went to check on Lily and Victoria. He found them in the barn, Victoria sitting on a hay bale, while Lily explained the complex social dynamics of horses with the seriousness of a nature documentary narrator. And this one is Pepper, and she's kind of mean, but Daddy says she's just got opinions. And this one is Scout, and she's my favorite even though I'm not supposed to have favorites. It's okay to have favorites, Victoria said, as long as you're still nice to the others. That's what I think. But Daddy says... Lily spotted Noah and her face lit up. Daddy, tell Victoria about how Scout saved that baby rabbit. Noah settled onto the hay bale next to Victoria, close enough that their shoulders touched. He launched into the story, heavily embellished for Lily's benefit, while his daughter listened with rapt attention despite having heard it a dozen times. When he finished, Lily hugged them both. This is the best birthday ever. Better than last year when we went to that water park? Noah asked. Way better, because Victoria's here. The simple honesty of it hit Noah square in the chest. He glanced at Victoria and saw her eyes glistening. I'm glad I'm here too, sweetheart, she said. Lily yawned hugely. The excitement and sugar crash were catching up with her. I'm tired. How about a nap before dinner? Noah suggested. I'm 8 now. I don't take naps. How about quiet time in your room with books? That's just a nap with extra steps. Exactly, Lily grumbled, but allowed herself to be guided back to the house and settled in her room with a stack of new birthday books. Within 10 minutes, she was asleep. Noah and Victoria sat on the porch, watching the sun start its slow descent behind the mountains. Thank you for today, Noah said. It meant everything to her, to both of us. I should be thanking you. I've never felt this... She paused, searching for the word. Included before. Like I actually belong somewhere instead of just visiting. You do belong. Here. With us. She turned to look at him, and he saw vulnerability in her expression that he'd never seen before. I'm going to lose my company, Noah. The board voted yesterday. They're forcing me out as CEO, buying out my shares at a fraction of what they're worth. My lawyer says I could fight it, but it would take years and cost everything I have left. I'm sorry. The weird thing is, I don't think I care as much as I should. I spent 3 years building that company while Damien slowly took control of my life. And now that it's gone, I just feel... She laughed shakily. Relieved, like I've been cut loose from something that was drowning me. So what are you going to do? I don't know. Start over, I guess. Figure out who I am when I'm not defined by a company or a relationship or running from my past. She looked at the neighboring estate. Maybe sell that ridiculous house and buy something smaller, something that feels like home instead of a fortress. Or, Noah said carefully, you could stay here. On your couch. On my couch, in my guest room, wherever, until you figure things out. Victoria stared at him. Noah, we've known each other for 2 months. You can't just watch me. He took her hand. Look, I don't know where this is going. I don't know if we're going to work out long-term or crash and burn spectacularly, but I know I want to find out, and I know Lily wants you here, and I know you need somewhere to land while you rebuild. So land here. That's insane. Probably. People will talk. Let them. What about the child services investigation? Won't this make things worse? Noah had thought about that. Thought about how it would look. The single father shacking up with the woman who'd brought violence and legal drama into his life. But he'd also thought about what Amanda Chen had said, that he was collateral damage in someone else's war. If I lose Lily because I chose to help someone who needed it, he said slowly, then the system is more broken than I thought. And I'll fight it with everything I have. But I'm not going to live my life afraid of what might happen. I'm done with that. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Can it be both? She laughed through the tears and kissed him. It was their first real kiss, clumsy and salt-tasted and perfect in its imperfection. When they pulled apart, Noah felt like he'd crossed some invisible line from which there was no going back. Okay, Victoria said. I'll stay, temporarily, until I figure things out. Temporarily, Noah agreed, knowing it was a lie they were both choosing to believe. That night, after Lily was asleep and Victoria had moved her things from the ridiculous estate into Noah's guest room, they sat on the porch drinking wine and talking about everything and nothing. The legal battles ahead, the uncertainty of the child services investigation, the simple question of how to build a life together when they were both still healing from different wounds. I'm terrified, Victoria admitted, of screwing this up, of hurting Lily, of losing you before I've even figured out what having you means. Me too. But you're still willing to try? Noah thought about Sarah's grave and the promises he'd made, about Lily sleeping peacefully inside, trusting the adults in her life to make good choices, about the ring sitting in a wooden box and the pale band of skin on his finger that was almost invisible now. Yeah, he said, I'm still willing to try. They sat in comfortable silence as the stars emerged, two broken people choosing each other, despite knowing it might not work, despite the complications and the fear and the very real possibility of loss. But for the first time in 4 years, Noah wasn't just surviving. He was building something new, something that scared him and excited him in equal measure, something that felt like coming home. The wine bottle sat empty between them, and the stars had multiplied overhead until the sky looked like someone had punched holes in black velvet. Noah's phone buzzed on the porch rail. Midnight, exactly, but neither of them moved to check it. We should probably sleep, Victoria said, but she made no move to stand. Probably. Big day tomorrow. You've got the ranch? I've got calls with lawyers. Lily's got school. Vic. Yeah? Stop planning. Just sit here with me. She leaned her head against his shoulder, and Noah felt the weight of her trust in that simple gesture. Someone who'd spent 3 years with a man who controlled her every move was choosing to rest against him, vulnerable and unguarded. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, she said quietly. For you to realize this is too complicated, or for Damien to find some new way to destroy things, or for me to wake up and discover this was just a fantasy I built to escape reality. What if the shoe doesn't drop? What if this is just real life being messy and imperfect, but still worth fighting for? That sounds nice. Probably too nice. You always this optimistic? She laughed against his shoulder. I prefer the term realistic. You should try it sometime. They sat until the cold drove them inside. Victoria disappeared into the guest room, the small space at the end of the hall that Noah had been using for storage until tonight. And Noah checked on Lily one more time before heading to his own room. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his mind racing despite the late hour. Everything had changed so fast. 2 months ago, Victoria was just the mysterious woman next door. Now she was sleeping down the hall, integrated into his daughter's life, tangled up in his future in ways he couldn't untangle even if he wanted to. His phone buzzed again. He grabbed it, expecting some spam notification. It was an email from Amanda Chen. Subject line, follow-up required. Noah's stomach dropped. He opened it with shaking hands. Mr. Carter, I've completed my initial investigation and will be filing my report with the department on Monday. However, I need to conduct one additional interview given new information that's come to light. Please call my office first thing Monday morning to schedule. This is standard procedure and not necessarily cause for alarm. Not necessarily cause for alarm, which meant it absolutely was cause for alarm. He forwarded the email to Victoria, then lay back down and tried to convince himself that everything would be fine, that this was just bureaucratic procedure, that Chen had seemed sympathetic, that Damien's anonymous complaint wouldn't be enough to tear his family apart. He was still trying to believe it when dawn crept through the windows. Sunday morning arrived with the kind of domestic chaos Noah had started to forget could exist. Victoria emerged from the guest room looking rumpled and beautiful, her hair a mess and yesterday's makeup smudged under her eyes. Lily bounced into the kitchen demanding pancakes, saw Victoria, and immediately demanded she help make them. I burn pancakes, Victoria warned. That's okay. Daddy burns them too. I do not burn them. I make them crispy. That's just burning with better marketing, Victoria said, and Lily dissolved into giggles. They made breakfast together, all three of them crowded in the small kitchen. Flour ended up on the floor, batter ended up on Lily's shirt, and the pancakes were indeed burned. But sitting around the table eating the charred results while Lily chattered about her birthday party felt more like family than anything Noah had experienced since Sarah died. Victoria's phone rang while they were cleaning up. She glanced at the screen and her expression went tight. I need to take this. She stepped outside and, through the window, Noah watched her pace the porch, one hand pressed to her forehead in that gesture he'd learned meant she was stressed. The call lasted 15 minutes. When she came back inside, her eyes were red. That was my lawyer. Damien's legal team filed a motion to have the assault charges dropped. They're claiming I fabricated the restraining order violation, that I manipulated events in the cemetery to make him look dangerous. That's insane. That's expensive lawyers spinning a narrative. She sat down heavily at the table. And it gets worse. They're subpoenaing you, Noah. Depositions start next week. They're going to grill you about your mental state, your relationship with me, your fitness as a parent, everything. Lily looked up from her coloring book. What's a deposition? Noah and Victoria exchanged glances. How much did you tell an 8-year-old about legal proceedings designed to destroy credibility? It's like a meeting where I have to answer questions about what happened in the cemetery, Noah said carefully. It's not fun, but it's necessary. Because of Damien? Yeah, Bug. Because of him. Lily's face scrunched up with anger. I hate him. Lily, I do. He's trying to hurt Victoria, and he's trying to hurt you, and it's not fair. Victoria knelt down beside Lily's chair. You're right, it's not fair. But sometimes bad people do unfair things, and we have to deal with them anyway. Can't Sheriff Martinez arrest him again? It's more complicated than that, sweetheart. Grown-up stuff is always complicated. Lily went back to her coloring with aggressive strokes. I still hate him. After Lily went outside to play, Victoria slumped against the kitchen counter. I'm destroying your life. Stop. It's true. Before I moved here, you were fine. I wasn't fine. I was existing. There's a difference. Noah moved closer. And yeah, this is complicated and scary, and maybe it'll blow up in our faces. But I'd rather deal with depositions and legal drama with you than go back to being alone. Even if it costs you Lily? The question hung between them like a blade. Because that was the real fear, wasn't it? Not the depositions or the media attention, or even Damien himself. The fear that Noah's choice to love someone new would cost him his daughter. I got an email from Amanda Chen last night, he said. She wants another interview, says new information came to light. Victoria's face went pale. What kind of information? She didn't say. But I'm guessing Damien's lawyers fed her something, some twisted version of events that makes me look unstable, or you look like a bad influence. We should get you a lawyer. With what money? I can barely afford to fix the truck when it breaks down. Then I'll pay. No. Noah's voice came out harder than he intended. I appreciate it, but no. I'm not going to be another project you finance. We're partners in this, or we're nothing. Victoria looked like she wanted to argue, but she just nodded. Okay, then we find you a good cheap lawyer and we prepare for the worst. Always the optimist. Always the realist. Monday morning arrived too fast. Noah dropped Lily at school, then drove straight to Amanda Chen's office in downtown Boulder. The building was one of those depressing government structures that looked like it had been designed to crush hope. Gray concrete, fluorescent lights, and the vague smell of old coffee and bureaucracy. Chen met him in a small interview room. She looked tired, like she'd spent the weekend reviewing case files instead of doing anything fun. Mr. Carter, thank you for coming in. Did I have a choice? Everyone has a choice. Some are just less appealing than others. She opened a folder and pulled out several printed pages. I received additional information over the weekend regarding your relationship with Victoria Hale and the circumstances that led to your altercation with Damien Cross. From who? The source is confidential, but the information raises concerns I need to address. She slid a document across the table. This is a statement claiming that you and Ms. Hale began a romantic relationship while she was still involved with Mr. Cross, that you inserted yourself into their dispute with the intention of alienating her from him. Noah stared at the paper. The words swam in front of his eyes. Affair, manipulation, unstable mental state, using child as leverage. This is complete fiction. Is it? Because, according to this statement, you and Ms. Hale were seen together multiple times before her relationship with Mr. Cross ended. Private meetings, late night conversations. We're neighbors. We waved at each other occasionally. That's not a relationship. The statement also claims you have a history of violent outbursts, that the cemetery incident wasn't an isolated event, but part of a pattern of aggressive behavior. That's a lie. You can check with Sheriff Martinez with anyone in town. I've never been in a fight before that night. Chen's expression didn't change. I have checked, Mr. Carter, and everyone I've spoken with vouches for your character. But you have to understand my position. I've got a complaint alleging you're unfit to parent. I've got evidence of you engaging in physical violence regardless of the justification, and I've got a witness statement claiming there's more to this situation than you've disclosed. The witness is Damien, or one of his lawyers. They're lying to make me look bad. Perhaps, but I still have to investigate the claims. She pulled out another document. I also need to address the fact that Ms. Hale is now living in your home. A woman with her own significant legal troubles who brought this conflict into your life. She's staying with me temporarily while she sorts out her housing situation. There's nothing inappropriate about it. Temporarily, how long? Noah didn't have a good answer for that. I don't know. Is your relationship with her romantic? He wanted to lie. Wanted to protect both of them from this invasive questioning, but he told Lily to always tell the truth, and he couldn't be a hypocrite now. It's developing in that direction, yes. Chen made a note. And you don't see how introducing a romantic partner into your daughter's life, particularly one who comes with this level of drama and danger, might be concerning from a child welfare perspective? Victoria isn't dangerous. She's a victim trying to rebuild her life. She's also a woman whose ex-boyfriend tracked her to your property and pulled a gun. That's not drama, Mr. Carter. That's a direct threat to your child's safety. The words hit like punches because they were true. Noah had been so focused on protecting Victoria, on proving he wasn't the grieving widower hiding from life, that he'd maybe not fully considered what he was exposing Lily to. Damien is in Denver, he said, under court order to stay away. The danger is contained. Court orders don't stop bullets. And men like Damien Cross don't stop pursuing what they want just because a judge tells them to. Chen leaned forward. I'm not trying to punish you, Mr. Carter. I'm trying to make sure your daughter is safe. And right now, I'm not convinced she is. Noah felt the ground shifting under him. What are you saying? I'm saying I need to see concrete evidence that you're prioritizing Lily's well-being over your relationship with Ms. Hale. I need to know that if it comes down to choosing between your daughter's safety and your romantic interest, you'll make the right choice. I would never choose anything over Lily. Then prove it. Chen closed the folder. I'm extending my investigation another 2 weeks. During that time, I'll be making unannounced visits to your home. I'll be interviewing Lily's teachers, her friends' parents, anyone who interacts with her regularly. And I'll be watching to see if this situation with Ms. Hale escalates or stabilizes. And if it escalates, then we'll need to discuss alternative living arrangements for Lily, temporarily, until the threat is resolved. The words hit Noah like a freight train. Alternative living arrangements meant foster care, or maybe Helen if she was willing, or Sarah's parents who lived in Florida and barely knew their granddaughter. You can't. I can, and I will, if I determine it's necessary. Chen's voice softened slightly. I don't want to separate you from your daughter, Mr. Carter, but I have a legal obligation to ensure her safety. Please don't make me choose between your feelings and her well-being. Noah left the office feeling like he'd been gutted. He sat in his truck for 20 minutes, trying to process what had just happened. Chen was giving him a choice that wasn't really a choice. Keep Victoria in his life and risk losing Lily, or push Victoria away to protect his daughter. The worst part was, he couldn't even be angry about it. Chen was right. He'd brought someone into Lily's world who came with real, measurable danger. Damien had already proven he was willing to use violence. What happened if he escalated? What if next time it wasn't just threats and a stolen gun, but something worse? His phone rang. Victoria. How'd it go? Noah couldn't speak for a second. Finally, bad. Really bad. What happened? He told her everything. The false statement, the accusations, Chen's ultimatum. Victoria was silent through most of it, and when she finally spoke, her voice was hollow. I should leave. Vic, no, I should. I should pack my things and go back to Denver or find somewhere else to stay. somewhere that doesn't put you and Lily at risk. That's not what I want. It doesn't matter what you want, Noah. It matters what's safe for your daughter, and I'm clearly not safe. He could hear her moving around, probably already packing. I'll be gone by the time you get home. Please don't run from this. I'm not running. I'm protecting the people I care about. Her voice cracked. This is my fault. All of it. Damien, the investigation, the danger to Lily. I brought this into your life and I need to take it back out. If you leave now, Damien wins. He wants us separated. He wants you isolated. Don't give him that. He already won, Noah. The second Amanda Chen started questioning whether Lily is safe with you, he won, because now you have to choose and there's only one right choice. She hung up before Noah could respond. He drove home fast enough that he should have gotten pulled over, but didn't. When he pulled into the driveway, Victoria's Range Rover was already loaded with bags. She was carrying the last box from the guest room when Noah got out of his truck. You don't have to do this, he said. Yes, I do. What about what you said? About not running when things get hard. Victoria set the box in her car and turned to face him. Her eyes were red and swollen. I meant it. But there's a difference between running from hard things and removing yourself from a situation where your presence is actively harmful. You're not harmful. Tell that to Amanda Chen. Tell that to the people claiming you're an unfit parent because you're associated with me. She gestured at the house. You have a beautiful life here, Noah. A daughter who loves you, a home, a community. I'm not going to be the reason you lose it. And what about you? Where are you going to go? I don't know. Hotel maybe, or I'll drive back to Denver. Figure things out there. So you're just giving up? On us? On yourself? On everything? I'm being realistic. Victoria moved closer, and he could see she was barely holding herself together. I love you. I know it's too soon and too complicated and probably the worst timing in history, but I do. And because I love you, I can't watch you lose your daughter because of me. The confession hit Noah in the chest. She loved him. This woman who'd spent 3 years learning not to trust anyone loved him, and she was walking away because of it. Then stay, he said. Stay, and we'll figure it out together. We'll find a way to make Chen understand, to prove that Lily's safe, There is no making Chen understand. She sees the facts. Violent ex-boyfriend, legal drama, woman with questionable judgment inserting herself into a single father's life. She's not wrong, Noah. I am a risk. Everyone is a risk. Life is a risk. You think I was safe before you? I was a ghost going through motions, teaching my daughter that the correct response to grief is to stop living. That's not safe, it's just slow death. Victoria's face crumpled. You're making this so much harder than it needs to be. Good. It should be hard. Things worth keeping are always hard. She pressed her hands to her face, shoulders shaking. Noah stepped forward and pulled her into his arms, and she collapsed against him like all the strength had finally run out. I don't know what to do, she whispered. I don't know how to not hurt everyone I care about. You start by not running. You stay, we get through the investigation, and we prove that we can handle this. And if we can't, if Chen decides Lily needs to be removed, then we fight it, but we fight it together. They stood in the driveway holding each other while the sun climbed higher and the world kept turning. Finally, Victoria pulled back and wiped her eyes. If I stay, things are going to get worse before they get better. Damien's not going to stop. His lawyers are going to keep pushing. The media attention is going to intensify. I know. And you're okay with that? Noah thought about Sarah, about the promises he'd made at her grave, about Lily asking if he'd still love her mother while loving Victoria too, about the choice between existing safely and living dangerously. No, he said honestly, I'm not okay with it. I'm terrified, but I'm also done letting fear make my decisions. Victoria searched his face like she was looking for cracks in his resolve. Then she nodded slowly. Okay, I'll stay. But the second this puts Lily in real danger, not theoretical danger, real danger, I'm gone. No arguments, no discussion. Deal? Deal. She started unloading her car, and Noah helped carry boxes back inside. They were putting the last one in the guest room when Lily got home from school. She took one look at Victoria's unpacked bags and the evidence of near departure, and her face went stormy. You were going to leave. Victoria crouched down to Lily's level. I was thinking about it, yes. Because of the bad man? Because people are being mean? Because I don't want to cause problems for you and your dad. Lily's eyes filled with tears. But you promised. You promised you wouldn't leave just because things got hard. I know, sweetheart. And I'm not leaving. I'm staying. But I need you to understand something. Victoria took Lily's hands. Sometimes the people we care about bring complicated stuff into our lives, and we have to decide if it's worth dealing with the complications to keep them around. Your dad and I decided it's worth it. But if you feel differently, if you want me to go, I will. This is your home, and your opinion matters. Lily looked at Noah, then back at Victoria. Do you love my dad? Noah held his breath. They'd said it privately, but saying it in front of his daughter made it real in a different way. Yes, Victoria said simply. I do. And you love me? So much. Then you have to stay. Because we're a family now, and families don't leave. Lily said it with absolute certainty, like the concept was so simple that adults were stupid for not understanding it. Victoria pulled her into a hug, and Noah watched these two people he loved hold each other and felt something settle in his chest. This was what he'd been fighting for without knowing it. Not just romance or companionship, but the possibility of building something new without destroying what came before. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Noah and Victoria sat on the porch planning their strategy. Victoria's lawyer had recommendations for custody attorneys if things with Amanda Chen went bad. Martinez had agreed to write another statement, this one specifically addressing Noah's character and parenting abilities. Even Helen had offered to testify. Though Noah suspected her testimony would include a lot of editorial commentary Chen didn't need to hear. We should prepare Lily too, Victoria said. If Chen does unannounced visits, Lily needs to know how to handle them. You mean coach her? I mean prepare her. There's a difference. Victoria pulled out her phone and started making notes. She needs to know that it's okay to tell the truth, that the social worker is just doing her job, that none of this is her fault. You've thought about this a lot. I've been thinking about everything a lot. It's kind of my default state. She looked up at him. Are you sure about this, Noah? Really sure? Because once we commit to fighting this, there's no going back. It's going to get ugly. I'm sure. Even though you might lose custody? If I lose custody because I chose to love someone instead of hiding from life, then at least I'll lose knowing I tried to be the person Sarah wanted me to be. The person Lily deserves as a father. Victoria set down her phone and moved closer on the porch swing. You know what scared me most about Damien? It wasn't the violence or the control. It was that he made me doubt my own judgment, made me think I was weak for wanting to leave, stupid for thinking I could do better. And even after I left, that voice stayed in my head telling me I wasn't strong enough to rebuild. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. I didn't feel like it. Not until I met you and Lily. She leaned against him. You made me remember that strength isn't about being perfect or having everything figured out. It's about showing up even when you're terrified. They sat in silence while the night sounds built around them. Crickets, distant traffic, the horses moving in the barn. Noah thought about the next 2 weeks, about unannounced visits and invasive questions, and the constant fear that one wrong move would cost him everything. But he also thought about this moment, about Victoria's weight against his shoulder and the knowledge that his daughter was sleeping safely inside, about the choice to build instead of hide, to risk instead of retreat. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You think you've won something, Carter? This is just beginning. Noah stared at the message, ice flooding his veins. He showed it to Victoria. Damien, she said immediately. He must have gotten a burner phone. Should we tell Martinez? He'll just say it's not technically threatening. No direct menace, no specific action promised. She deleted the message from Noah's phone. Block the number, don't engage. That's what he wants, to get inside our heads and make us paranoid. But the damage was done. Noah spent the next hour checking locks and windows, making sure the security system was armed, trying not to imagine Damien driving up from Denver in the middle of the night. Victoria found him at midnight standing in Lily's doorway, watching his daughter sleep. She's safe, Victoria said quietly. For now. For now is all we've got. She took his hand. Come to bed. You can't protect her by not sleeping. He let her lead him to his bedroom, and for the first time since Sarah died, someone else slept beside him. Not in Sarah's spot. Victoria took the other side, creating new geography in a space that had been frozen for 4 years. They didn't do anything more than hold each other, both too exhausted and stressed for anything else. But lying there in the dark with her breathing slowly, evening out into sleep, Noah felt less alone than he had in years. The next week was a study in controlled chaos. Amanda Chen made 2 unannounced visits, showing up at random times to observe how the household functioned. The first time she arrived during breakfast and found Lily helping Victoria make eggs while Noah burned toast in the background. The second time, she came after school and caught them doing homework at the kitchen table, Victoria explaining long division with more patience than Noah had ever managed. Chen took notes but revealed nothing, just watched with those careful eyes that had seen every kind of family disaster, measuring them against some invisible standard Noah couldn't see. Meanwhile, Damien's harassment continued. Not the text messages, Noah had blocked that number, but in other ways. Anonymous complaints to the health department about the horses. A sudden inspection from the county about whether Noah's ranch met zoning requirements for a residential property. Small, petty acts of revenge that couldn't be directly traced but carried Damien's fingerprints all over them. He's trying to overwhelm you, Victoria's lawyer explained during a call. Make you deal with so many small crises that you don't have energy left to fight the big one. It's a classic intimidation tactic. What do we do about it? Document everything. Show Chen that you're handling these attacks calmly and rationally, that you're not letting Damien's harassment affect Lily or create an unstable environment. So Noah documented, took photos, saved emails, created a timeline of every suspicious complaint or inspection. It felt paranoid and excessive, but Victoria assured him it would matter later. Lily, for her part, handled everything with